Good evening. It is wonderful to see everybody tonight. We're so happy that you're here. I am going to call the board meeting for Tuesday, June 3rd, 2025 for the Des Moines Public Schools to order. We are really lucky we have a guest with us this evening. Some of you are familiar with Erin Jenkins. She actually had the role prior to Ms. Rios, and Ms. Rios is out for the week. So a special thank you to you. We're really glad that you're here, Erin. Thank you so much. And with that, I'll turn to you to take the roll.
Ms. Alonso?
Here.
Ms. Campos? Mr. Dix?
Here.
Ms. Knox? Ms. Martoreno?
Here.
Dr. Mayberry Mays?
Here.
Ms. Norris?
Here. The first item of business is approval of the agenda. May I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Martorano, so moved.
Dick, second.
We have a motion by Ms. Martorano and a second by Mr. Dix. Are there any questions? Board members, please cast your votes. The vote is approved 5-0. Next on the agenda is the public forum. We provide speakers at the forum an opportunity to address the board for up to 3 minutes regarding items that are not on the board agenda and up to 5 minutes for an agenda item. If anyone wishes to speak during any portion of the business meeting, please email aaron.jenkins@dmschools.org or come up and fill out a slip of paper. The same speaking protocols apply to all individuals who wish to address the board. Speakers will be called individually, and we ask they state their name and city prior to providing comments. Guests of the board are encouraged to speak to matters relating to the programs, services, and operations of DMPS. Please remember that Iowa law prohibits us from discussing specific employees or their job performance. We ask all speakers to avoid references to personalities or character attacks, as those types of comments do not contribute to the purpose for which the public forum exists. The use of inappropriate language will not be tolerated, and individuals choosing to do so will be gavelled out of order and asked to excuse themselves from the premises or escorted out by district security. As a reminder to the board and public, the board will not engage in a discussion with public forum speakers, as it is our obligation to discuss only matters posted in the public agenda for the sake of transparency and opportunity afforded to all community stakeholders. Matters requiring attention will receive appropriate staff and/or board follow-up at a time after the meeting. Thanks for your participation. We appreciate your feedback and input. Ms. Jenkins, do we have any speakers for the public forum?
Yes, we do. First up is Jessica Trinidad Gomez. Jessica? All right, next, D'Artagnan Brown.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good afternoon to you, Superintendent Roberts, and to you, the members of the board. The last time I was in this spot was April 2nd, 2024. As members of Iowa CCI, we were here acting as concerned citizens, both welcoming you and at the same time warning you of the effects of the efforts of privatization interests seeking to undermine our public schools here in Iowa. Well, here we are, 14 months later. All of us, both you as a school board and we as citizens, have lived through the challenges of sailing through the headwinds of government-supported opposition to our shared cause of quality public education. You didn't know us, we didn't know you, but here we are 14 months later viewing each other with respect, only achieved by standing together through the challenges which we all recognize threaten us all as defenders of fine public education. Our perspectives are much different. You are directly on the firing line, while most of us, retired educators and supporters, can only offer what we can from the sidelines. We have met with you. We have witnessed your efforts both here in the school board meetings and in the community, especially you, Dr. Roberts, as you have worked to become a more integral part of our Des Moines community. I can personally say that my own early trepidation has morphed into respect for your daunting task that you face and for the panache with which you conduct yourself and interact with your colleagues on the board, and more importantly, with the students of DMPS. Whether inspiring young athletes, scholars, or artists, it's now obvious that you care and that you are leaving no one out. Iowa CCI, as you may have heard, we are not shrinking violets. We tend to dive in, especially where there are those that seek to undermine our progress toward a more just and sustainable community. With the advent of Public Schools Strong, we have endeavored to attend these meetings, taking lots of notes and following up with each of you individually. After 14 months, I'm here not to congratulate, because there's still a lot to do, but to accentuate our respect for your honest efforts in providing the kind of learning environment that will prepare today's students for a world that very much needs their well-prepared hearts and minds. I hope that you know that CCI, known for being feisty, is not here to disrupt, but to support, using our shared wisdom of our members, both here in Des Moines and around the state of Iowa. Our Public School Strong chapters, now with more than 38 fledgling chapters around the state of Iowa, we have your back. We know that you're under tremendous pressure to knuckle under to the forces which seek to abandon the principles of equal education for all. We also know that you're not shrinking from your responsibilities. We know that you have the back of each and every Des Moines public school student and their families. So today, at the end of another academic year, I'm here to register my respect for your efforts and to let you know that we have your back. When you need the support of those dedicated to maintaining superlative public education, we'll be here. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cherie Mortis.
I always have to adjust this when I follow D'Artagnan. My name is Cherie Mortis. I live on the east side of Des Moines, and I'm a member of Public School Strong. As the school year winds down, I'd like to salute the efforts of the entire district to find solutions and create new opportunities for our Des Moines public school students. I'd like to thank the superintendent and board for your service throughout the school year that includes the start of an epic journey of change. The new cell phone policy and Reimagine plan are giant steps for our district. And Des Moines Public Strong sends gratitude to the administrative leadership staff and planning committees that worked hard, intensely over the weeks to put the blueprint together. To our building administrators, teachers, and all support staff, Des Moines Public School Strong would like to extend a big thank you for your daily commitment to our students. Every day isn't easy, I know that. But every day you are impacting the lives of students in big and small ways. Our public schools in Des Moines are the lifeblood for many of our students, and this district has an incredible number of programs and opportunities to meet the vast array of student needs. Going forward, as Reimagine unfolds, those opportunities can be expanded. I want to put a finer point on a couple of things, however. First of all, our public school district and all public schools are worth defending and promoting. I think it is important to be reminded that vouchers are a threat to our sustainability and success as a district. Our challenge as a public school district is greater because we welcome all students and that can require additional resources. There are clearly opponents of public schools operating in Iowa that want to defund, dismantle, and privatize education in Iowa. The voucher program in Iowa is being expanded with millions of tax dollars continuing to be funneled away from public education. Dollars spent on educating students is best spent where there is oversight and accountability, not where private profiteers can take tax revenue and spend without any form of accounting that is public. That is why Des Moines Public Strong was launched in Des Moines as well as chapters across Iowa. We will continue to organize people to attend school board meetings and support fully funded, honest, and equitable public education open to everyone. Our Des Moines Public School Strong chapter is excited about the strategic planning we are engaged in presently to expand our outreach capacity this summer to meet more people and have more conversations so that we are engaging more Des Moines residents. We have collaborated with Jennifer Berkshire, author of The Education Wars in the past, and will be continuing with that partnership this summer to better understand the challenges before us. Neighborhood public schools create a healthy sense of community and shared commitment. They are a bedrock of democracy, and Des Moines Public School Strong is proud to be defenders of those ideals. Thank you.
We have no further speakers.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is our monitoring report, and we will be monitoring Guardrail 2. Thank you. How could I forget the most important part of the meeting? Recognitions. Dr. Roberts.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. As we continue to bring forth district recognitions at every board meeting where we recognize, honor, and celebrate the amazing accomplishments of our teachers and the adults who serve, of teachers, staff, students, and all the other adults in the district who serve our students every single day. This evening, at the last board meeting of our school year, we do not have any in-person recognitions, but Madam Chair, certainly would behoove me to celebrate the fact that we are in graduation season. We have just completed 8 graduations of students who have walked across stages, including our virtual campus, our Options Academy, our Ruby Van Meter Special Education Campus, certainly our 5 comprehensive high schools. I had the good fortune of serving as a member of the on-stage guests where I shared in my brief remarks, arguably brief remarks, that this class is designated as the Invictus class. And Invictus, as we know it, is the Latin word that means unconquerable and undefeated. And we aptly define this class as the Invictus class because this is the group of students who started their high school journey in the midst of the pandemic. But in spite of, we have seen hundreds of students in the Des Moines Public Schools walk across the stage, many of whom will be entering into the world of work to be gainfully employed as a part of our employment commitment. Many of them have enlisted. They all stood proudly when called upon in the branches of the military. And we also have a healthy number who have enrolled in colleges and universities of their choice, included historically black colleges and universities and Ivy League schools. We're so proud of them. But in addition to our high school graduates, many of you have had the good fortune in the past week of attending our kindergarten graduation or promotion ceremonies. Some of the most fun and exciting, and also more than 30 what our elementary teachers and staff will call clap-outs. And this is where we send off our 5th graders with a lot of jubilation as they enter into middle schools. So excited about that and want to celebrate them. And the final recognition this evening is, again, to double on the board's most recent at the last board meeting, gratitude and acknowledgement of our teachers, staff, and the leaders who served them, just to say thank you. Thank you for your continued individual inspiration to ensure that every single student who knocks on our doors receive a quality education, and for your collective commitment to still stand in the gap, not only for our students, but for your colleagues. So as you get ready to head off to places near and far in the summer, beaches that I'll be envious of, and enjoyable vacations, we have tremendous gratitude for you and your service. And we look forward to seeing you as you return next year, but also join our talented personnel team by sharing the good news to recruit even more teachers and staff to come to the most amazing public school system in the state of Iowa. Madam Chair, that concludes this evening's recognitions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Next item on our agenda is our monitoring report, Guardrail 2, and I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Martirano to facilitate the board discussion of the monitoring report. Before I do that, I do want to say thank you very much. Ms. Martirano willingly always accepts the challenge or is voluntold or whatever it is, but she is always so willing to do this, so thank you very much. And it's all yours.
Certainly, I'm happy to facilitate, and looking forward to our conversation today. For the public, both watching online and here, typically the board does not monitor our guardrails. They're added to our consent agenda items, so it's not a topic that we discuss as a board, but we have decided that moving forward, we are going to take more intentional steps towards highlighting the good that is happening in the district, and it just so happens that our guardrails do need to be celebrated today, Guardrail 2 and Guardrail 4. So I am going to ask that Dr. Roberts present the guardrail and update us on the information today, and then we'll ask board members to follow up with any questions that they may have regarding the status of our achievement towards honoring this value that has been vocalized by our community.
Thank you, Board Member Marano. At this point, in keeping with our practice of ensuring that as we continue to provide a snippet of our interim guardrails and interim goals to the community and board, we want to ask that we bring forth some of those individuals who are closest to the work, who work and serve in our schools, to provide much more in-depth sort of celebrations, if you may, about where we are. And I'll call on one of our senior leaders, Greg Rills, to introduce them.
Good evening. Good evening, Dr. Roberts, Chair Norris, and fellow board members. As we turn our focus to Guardrail 2, and we've got a few folks coming up to join me, I want to begin by just first recognizing the many DMPS educators that have fully embraced our district's first ever adoption of a universal SEL curriculum. Their commitment, along with the engagement of over 31,000 students, has helped build a foundation for durable skills like collaboration, self-awareness, adaptability, and purpose in our classrooms. Tonight, you'll hear from two school teams that are bringing this work to life. First, you're going to hear from Lincoln High School, Associate Principal Joy Lindquist. She is joined by some fellow students that are also going to be sharing, and they are going to be sharing their advisory model and how it's building student self-efficacy, aligned specifically to interim guardrail 2A, helping students feel more confident and connected in their learning. And then following that, you'll hear from Phillips Elementary. Second grade teachers Carrie Koheiser, Faith Boss, and academic interventionist Breezy Presley will share the sustained professional learning around SEL that they've been engaged in that has shaped their instruction, strengthened collaboration, and supported student outcomes, directly advancing interim goal 2B. This year, I want to note that Phillips also achieved an 89% favorable response on the staff panorama survey, placing them in the 99th percentile nationally. A powerful reflection of adult investment that's making an impact where ultimately matters most in the classroom. So together, these examples will reflect how SEL is becoming more embedded and not just an initiative, but more of a part of the way that we just do school here in DMPS. So I'm going to start with Joy and the Lincoln team. I think so.
Oh, great. Awesome. Good evening. Thank you for having us. I would like to share just a couple minutes about our journey. So I joined the Lincoln team 3 years ago, and we had just created an SEL team. And so 3 years ago, we decided to lay the foundation for the adult learning in SEL. We really felt as a team it'd be important to ensure that the adults understood social emotional learning, that they were able to support one another and support students. We led professional development. We also started some community building circles with our adults and trauma-informed care professional development. The next year, we introduced, and we were here last year sharing our successes with you as well because our panorama data increased last year. And that was due to us incorporating a Tier 1 instructional framework with regard to we created our own curriculum using our lessons using the SEL competencies. And this year,
the huge shift with Wayfinder has made a significant difference. We, again, have seen increases in our data, which I am going to allow our team to share more with you. But I wanted you to understand that has been a journey, 3 years worth, and I'm very proud of our team. I would like to acknowledge them and allow them to share the actual celebrations.
Hi, I'm Katie Murphy, and I'm one of the SEL champions. Julia Minahan will speak right after me, but I just wanted to speak in regards to some of our data. So the data that is in front of you is our spring panorama results. And our shift to focusing on student SEL this year has helped our students be above district average in every category, which we are very proud of. But one of the things we are most proud of is the growth that students have shown in self-efficacy. We believe that that directly correlates to the data you see on the right of teacher efficacy. As our staff continue to believe in their ability to teach and for their students to learn, students gain efficacy as well. On the next slide, you will see how this has affected our academics, specifically our ISASP scores for the 9th and 10th graders. We believe that SEL and academics should never be in competition with each other. When a student's social emotional well-being is increasing, their academics do as well.
Good evening. My name is Julia Minahan. I'm a school counselor at Lincoln and one of the SEL champions as well. So I am very excited. I've been at Lincoln for 10 years, and we used to have Rails time for those of you who've been around for a while, which was similar to an advisory model. That went away for several years, and this year our school is the only high school that implemented an advisory model. But because it was not built into our bell schedule, we had it as a rotating period. But that is the time that we used for students to have a home base, to have consistency with not only peers in those advisories, but also one teacher that was their homeroom teacher for them to build a strong relationship with one caring adult. So it's something I'm very proud of that we did, and we used our Wayfinder curriculum in that advisory model, and I truly believe that is why we saw the growth that we saw in our panorama data. The thing I would really love to ask for future years is for advisory to become embedded in the high school bell schedule, because I truly think that our students and teachers need that consistency, but also for our teachers to get their instructional time protected. The barrier that we saw was because we had rotating periods. Although SEL is important, it did take away from some instructional time. And that was a barrier for a lot of our students and teachers. So having that protected time would be huge for all high schools. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Blake Butters. I'm the class of 2025 president at Lincoln High School. I've been a part of many things here at Lincoln High School, but being a part of the leadership team really helped me see the self-efficacy of the students in the high school, and it really made me believe that throughout the years in our SEL, we have gained more and more, especially with this advisory and us learning more lessons through it. I believe my self-efficacy has risen more than ever. So I really am, I will strive for this as much as I can, and even when I come back to hopefully teach here at the school, I will strive for that.
Hello, my name is Valeria Diaz-Ruiz. I am the Vice President of Lincoln High School. I also believe a lot in this advisory because it gives a set time for teachers and students. We used to do Wayfinder with teachers presenting it, and it would be different teachers last year, different teachers at different times. So we wouldn't always get to see the Wayfinder curriculum and what we were supposed to be looking at. But this year we have advisory, so it was a set time for us to look at that stuff with the same teacher and the same students in your class, which has also helped us collaborate with students that I didn't know was in my grade. So that's very beneficial as well. And we have done activities and games that have helped us improve our self-efficacy. And I believe that advisory is very helpful and will continue to help increase our self-efficacy and other data.
Hello, my name is Jair Gaucher, and I'm an 11th grader at Lincoln High School. My experience with the social and emotional learning for advisory classes this year have been good for me and other students. There was one activity that I feel me and my fellow classmates really enjoyed and it helped us, and it was a lesson on how mental health and why mental health is important and what we can do to manage it and maintain it while also staying on top of our schoolwork and not getting behind. And I feel that this was helpful and important to us because I feel as a high schooler, we have a lot of stuff outside of school that we bring into school that affects our personal learning. So I feel like it's always helpful to have things help us navigate around those problems. And I'll also be voicing the opinion of one of my fellow classmates, Noel Ramos Alvarado, who wasn't able to make it tonight. Students often listened to Wayfinder lessons that were being introduced in my advisory room. Usually everyone in the classroom had an awesome connection, and I think we should stick to the same advisory teacher for all years of high school. We felt pretty good about self-efficiency with the lessons we learned in advisory class, and often talked about things related to mental health that can help us figure out what to do and how to manage our mental health in a better direction. Thank you for your time, and I hope this helps you.
Hello, my name is Andrea Avalos, and I am a sophomore at Lincoln High School. Thank you for letting me speak to you all today. My experience with the social and emotional learning during advisory classes helped me tremendously. The SEL classes had made me realize and recognize that all of us are struggling and growing with common things. It has helped me feel like I have self-efficacy and I can do things on my own and I have control over my future. There was one activity that we did the beginning of second semester. We were on a website that could possibly determine our future careers by taking a small personality quiz to see where we would fall under. I remember taking something very similar in my 8th grade year. So I thought that this was helpful because it had showed us some doors that we could open in our future, and it could give us an insight more about the career that would lay with our personalities. I hope this helps you, and thank you.
Hello, my name is Leticia Felix. I'm a 10th grader at Lincoln High School. Thank you for letting me speak to you all today. My experience with the social and emotional learning or advisory classes this year have been good for me and other students. It has helped me feel like I have efficacy and I can make a difference and that I have control over who I am and I will be. The classes have made me feel happy and proud of my accomplishments. I also think this has helped some students build relationships in a smaller group. The class has made me more aware of others and how we are going through similar things in our lives. And because of this, I believe we are making sure to treat others with kindness and respect. There was one activity that we did in class that I really liked. It was a cartoon video about bullying. A boy was being bullied and had no friends. Then a girl wanted to be friends with him and ended up getting made fun of as well. But together they overcame everything. The video was helpful to us because students should understand how everyone goes through things that are not always good and how kindness is something everyone should be showing out there, and it makes a big difference for all of us. Thank you for your time, and I hope this helps you.
In closing, just know that not only our SEL data, but also our academic data has had significant growth this year, and we are so proud of our students. So I just would like to give them a hand if we could. Thank you.
And next, I'll call up our Phillips team, and they're going to share out specifically around interim goal, our guardrail 2B.
Can we?
Sure.
I'll ask one, and then if anybody else wants to ask a question. So this is not a trick question, but in your own words, if somebody said to you, "What self-efficacy?" What would you say? Like, how would you define it or explain it?
I would explain that it's believing that you can do something and that you can accomplish things. Just having that personal, acknowledgement that you know you can do things.
Awesome. Thank you.
Perfect answer.
Good job. Thank you so much. Anybody, other questions? Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right. So hi, my name's Carrie Koheiser. I teach second grade at Phillips Elementary.
I'm Breezy Preston. I work as an academic interventionist with second grade at Phillips.
And my name is Faith Boss. I am a second grade teacher at Phillips Elementary. And today we're going to be talking about social and emotional learning.
So just to start, I kind of wanted to define social emotional learning, kind of what it means to us at Phillips. And so it's just this idea, right, that every child can receive an education that fully supports their learning and development so they can achieve their goals and contribute to their communities. It's also just having this ability to learn like healthy development and positive relationship skills. We at Phillips take the Wayfinder lessons and then also just looking really hard at the Castle transformative constructs. And so we really look at identity, belonging, agency, collaborative problem solving, and curiosity. And that's kind of where we let our SEL work lie.
Within SEL, there really are two parts. There is the student SEL, but there is the adult LCL that we kind of forget about a lot. Our building divided that work into two different teams, taking a closer look at how we prepare our adults for using SEL, using Wayfinder and those Castle competencies.
So at our building, I'm on our SEL team, which focuses heavily on our student SEL. We look at the panorama data, and that's kind of how we determine what areas of growth our students need. And what lessons we're going to prepare, what Wayfinder we're going to look at, and that's just how we drive our instruction. And then, like I said, I work on that student SEL piece.
And I am a part of our building leadership team, and we collect and look at data and focus specifically on how we can enhance that adult SEL piece. One way that we have worked on improving adult SEL is by having the experts at Phillips, the classroom teachers, present on those Castle competencies during our professional developments. We've had presentations on self-awareness, emotional regulation, self-efficacy, social awareness, responsible decision-making, and relationship skills. All of these presentations were rooted in both SEL for students and in for adults. Because the truth is in order to do our most effective To be our most effective selves, we need to take care of our own SEL as well.
So to me, SEL is about recognizing and honoring students as a whole person. So before we can talk about like succeeding academically, we need to meet their physical and their emotional needs too. And so really it's just this idea that when our students come in, they're people first and students second. And so how are we meeting those needs? They need to feel safe, valued, and understood in our classrooms. When students know their voices matter and they have the tools to connect with each other, that's where the real growth happens. By building that trust and creating a caring community, we've kind of opened the door for personal and academic success. We really found that by collaborating as a team and having those opportunities for adult SEL in our building and working together, that it really strengthened our ability to teach our students SEL. When we really understood our own SEL, that made a huge impact in our students' SEL. We were able to provide them with quality instruction because we understood ourselves. And that's a really important kind of first step. And that's kind of what we delivered here at Phillips.
And we have many conversations understanding that SEL is not a isolated time. It is a conversation that we are having all the time, all day, every day. They come up in everything that we're doing, and they can be weaved into things that we're talking about academically, or they're just a conversation that we can have with a child by itself. Wanting to note that it is important that we take care of adult SEL and student SEL.
We kind of have a special situation at Phillips. We have our interventionists with the push-in model. So being given that opportunity to have 3 teachers supporting 1 grade has vastly opened doors for students that may not have been available for only having those 2 classroom teachers. We are able to have more SEL conversations frequently, and it allows students more chances to connect with adults that they feel comfortable with. So you're not always just locked into that one classroom teacher and maybe the other classroom teacher at recess. You have 2 adults in the room that you might be more comfortable with one than the other, depending on the student. It can also give the room different perspectives and the ability to meet different emotional needs. Just how students have different emotional strengths, so do the adults. It allows us to be more fluid with conversations and conflicts, and it gives students the opportunity to practice appropriate strategies and to emotionally regulate themselves. It also gives us, the adults, the ability to be more collaborative with one another and allow us to be more in the know with all students in second grade, not just one classroom.
To state again, we found success with this approach as shown by Phillips data. We had a 9-point gain in professional learning about SEL, putting our building at the 99th percentile. When we started really looking at what staff needed to be confident in leading SEL, that is when the growth started.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you, team. Greg, thank you so much. Lincoln Rails, thank you. Thank you all for being here. We're so proud of the work you all are doing. And certainly our Phillips team, thank you as well. Congratulations. Let's keep pushing forward. Madam Chair and Board, certainly it is very clear to us that as we continue to look at Guardrail 2, which states that the superintendent shall not allow the socio-emotional learning needs of any student or staff to go unaddressed. This guardrail is of critical importance to us. And while we know that as an educational institution, we prioritize and should prioritize academic gains and academic success, what I heard loud and clear, particularly from our Phillips Elementary staff, is that they are just navigating this interesting dichotomy between Bloom's taxonomy and Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And so while we know that we want everyone to focus on Bloom's, unless we focus on and prioritize Maslow's, where we're meeting the basic needs and social-emotional needs of our not only students but staff, we will not get to the desired outcome of achieving our board goals. And so with that said, indulge me if you may as I share a high-level overview building on what they've just shared around where we are with Guardrail 2. And then the next slide, I want to talk a little bit about the fact that when we look at interim Guardrail 2A, which speaks mostly to student self-efficacy, we are meeting the target, right? So as you look at the quantitative numbers, we are seeing growth, but it's not quite where we want to be. And while we have some isolated cases, for example, where some schools are outperforming others, we will acknowledge that we are at varying places of implementation with our SEL Wayfinder curriculum. And you'll see that reflected in some of our data. When I think about Guardrail 2B, and this is more about teacher learning and SEL, we've heard from some of our teammates sharing the importance of really ensuring that they too are also embracing those 5 key tenets of socio-emotional learning, right? That includes social and self-awareness, solid relationship building, emotional regulation, and responsible decision-making. Those are the 5 key tenets that the Castle model offers us, and even they are embedded into our Wayfinder curriculum, and so we are excited about where we are. I want to highlight and acknowledge, though, that some big takeaways for us is the fact that the self-efficacy in students really reflects the belief in their ability to succeed, and we heard from one of our Lincoln students, right, the vice president of the class of 2025, that they understand that having been exposed to Wayfinder, their self-efficacy has certainly improved and will continue to improve. On the next slide, I want to just highlight some of what we've seen, and that is where our schools are not only meeting this target that we've set of 38%, but many of them are exceeding in significant ways. And that work has to be attributed to 3 groups of individuals, right? One, the teachers who are willing to implement this new curriculum in addition to just the academic curriculum that they're expected to focus on, including our math and ELA curriculum and science curriculum. So they recognize the importance of this. The second group is our school leaders and their leadership teams. Right? They also recognize that while there's so much on their plates, there is an important consideration being given to ensure that they're supporting our teachers with balancing and navigating the different curricular options. And then the third is our SEL champions, right, who work out of our district offices. And these are individuals who have raised their hands to say, yes, we are going to stand in the gap of the work that our primary work, but also support this big initiative because we recognize the importance of it. And as you can see there for your sharing, your observation, that the progress we're making is tremendous. And while we can highlight all of our schools who are far exceeding the 52% target. To have schools that are in the 99th percentile or the 90th percentile in general compared to their peers in the nation, certainly impressive. But we also recognize that we have much more work to do. On the next slide, it really just highlights some commitments we made to the board in the fall. The board has charged the district's team to ensure that we are coming back to you to provide you with some updates about where we are, and the status is reflected there in terms of where we are. The first is the way we find the lessons and whether or not they are aligned to our panorama data, and the panorama survey, of course, is administered to both adults and students. And the one update and status that we have is we've since created lessons, and we've shared and implemented these lessons to a great extent with fidelity in some of our schools, while in many of our other schools, we're still growing. And one call out, I think, from some of our presenters today is that we do not yet have consistent advisory models built into our schedule across all of our high schools. It's a work in progress. It certainly will present a challenge to us because, again, we want to maintain the prioritization of spending the limited time that we have on our academic pursuits. So that's something that we're going to figure out. The one other sort of board commitment I want to call out is commitment number 3, and that's an SEL-focused professional development. We do not necessarily want to, as a practice, be married to any consultant or consulting group. And they understand that that's our philosophy as well. We certainly want to value and embrace those partnerships, but we also want to make sure that we're building internal capacity to embrace a train-the-trainer model. And with Greg Grills and Alison Finley and Theron Hobbs and other members of that team, we are working on a train-the-trainer model that will certainly ensure that we are building sustainability around the practice. On the next slide, I certainly want to highlight sort of how are we prioritizing. We are looking at this through this trifecta for me, the lens of where do we need to expand, where do we need to build, and where do we need to strengthen. Now, I want to share just one for you, and I'll share sort of our top bullets, and that is the places where we need to expand to have a higher impact is on launching high school SEL framework with more monthly activities and get into a place of consistency. We still don't have that yet. It's an area of growth. Where we want to build is to continue with our SEL champions training and to continue to build their capacity around utilization of coaching tools. And where we need to strengthen is our counseling and tiered supports. You've heard from our counselors at previous board meetings where while we have a number of schools that are nationally ranked ASCA champions, we still have areas of growth in that regard. So I wanted to be able to share with you and then open up certainly for any questions that the board may have related to Guardrail 2.
Thank you, Dr. Roberts. Board members, I open it up to you for questions regarding this report. This report was very, I will say, thorough and dove very deeply into where we currently are and where we're headed in the future. So any lingering questions from board members?
I have 2. Dr. Roberts, do you mind going back to the slide that showed what you said you were going to do? Yeah. So number 2, the curriculum coordinators trained on SEL integration. One of the things in the report it talks about is SEL still feeling like an add-on, like another thing. And so can you just explain a little bit more how those 2 things are working together? It looks, by virtue of this, that you've addressed it or it's being addressed. Yeah. Can you explain that a little bit more?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And let me preface my comments by sharing that the district's leadership team certainly empathize with our curriculum coordinators because it is true. It certainly can feel as an add-on because when you think about their primary role is that of providing really targeted and differentiated support around curriculum and instruction to our teacher and school teams. But because we value, and I say we, I'm speaking collectively, all of the adults in the school district realize the value of SEL, they have raised their hands to say, yes, let's see how we can support. So we, as a team, need to continue to think about where can we sort of reduce the burden of this additional body of work, although it's critical. So we are a work in progress, a lot of crosswalk with the other aspects of their daily operations.
Can you explain the crosswalk?
The crosswalk is where I believe that we're looking at their primary functions around providing supports to teachers and our school leaders around instruction, but also looking at where can we blend time in this time constraint environment. Where are we seeing an important merge between curriculum and instruction, academic outcomes for students, as well as their growth on our socio-emotional pursuits?
Thank you.
So I have a comment. I don't know if I should hold that, Kim, but I also have a question. Should I do the question first?
I would say we can be agile during this type of question and answer. This is not a typical monitoring, so by all means, go.
Okay. So first I want to make a comment as a mother. So we heard from the teachers, we heard from you, some of the students, but my son is a second grader at Phillips. And actually, Ms. K is his teacher, and I want to be transparent and kind of just give you the story of him. He had struggled a lot last year in first grade with emotional issues and then academics. And this year, I totally saw a change in him and just the conversations he had. I could see the work of Wayfinder really working, especially in our household, and his academics has gone up, and his emotional issues have, he's done really, really well. So that's my comment of I'm seeing what's happening with my family, with Wayfinder and SEL. Especially with the kiddo that did struggle. But my question is, so one of the students was talking about the advocacy. No, what was it? Advisory. Thank you. Advisory classes, and then that's kind of on your what not's going well. That is on there, the limited time. Is that something that we could look into, or is the calendar set and it's kind of difficult to add that in for next year?
Yeah, I know my team will have much more in-depth response. But what I can say with certainty is school leaders and their teams have a tremendous amount of agency. And while we see value in some consistency of practices across the district, this is one where principals and their teams are navigating a time-constrained environment where they wish they had an additional 10 hours in their day to do all of the things that they want to do. And so advisory, Lincoln High School is the only high school this year, I believe, that went full-fledged into having an advisory program. And because of the spirit of collaboration that is present amongst our high school leaders, I can certainly see a place where they will actually have conversations with their peers to see how can they best implement an advisory model in their schools. And so I believe that we are likely to see in school year 25-26 much more of an appetite to embrace an advisory model. At our middle school level, we're seeing school leaders are also finding utilizing creative ways to build in that time as well across all of our middle schools. And elementary schools, of course, have a very different schedule, and they're able to build it in. So it's something that we're going to work on. Thank you.
Board members, any additional questions?
I just have a comment. I was really excited actually to see the number 4 page. Sorry, I don't have the page number, Dr. Rivers. Page 8, that just talks about scaling secondary implementation supports. And so specifically, this is in the report, yes. But specifically when we get to the Portrait of a Graduate and the connection between Wayfinder and Portrait of a Graduate, that's going to be when we talk about Goal 3 and get our next update. Would love to hear more about that because I just love seeing the connection between the two.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We're excited. The team is excited to share more about and expand on that work when we revisit Goal 3, the Goal 3 conversation.
Great.
Yeah.
Dr. Roberts, I'd build on Jackie's comments there. As a product of a 4-year advisory model in my high school and having the same adult in that advisory, I don't think that there's a better way to have consistency for kids academically so that they have the same adult asking questions, meeting needs. for a 4-year term. But I'd add in the advisory model, and I would just offer this up to the experts, and that is having boys and girls advisories and the difference that that made and the social difference that that made for us to have. I think it was a huge advantage going through 4 years of high school, and I'd be interested to hear if that model's being used anywhere else and what the benefits might be of not only a 4-year advisory, but 4-year separated out advisory.
So homogeneous by gender. Yeah, I know that there are a plethora of research that speaks to the value of sort of those gender-specific classrooms, gender-specific schools. And as you can imagine, we have both good and bad data around it. But I appreciate you sharing that. I don't know, I know our principals are listening and someone may want to add another thing to their plate and take that on. It's not a directive. Someone may be listening to you right now.
Dr. Roberts, a very high-level question, but I'm curious, does the district offer any direction to buildings? I know you said they have their own agency. I feel like we sometimes will hear at public forums or in monitoring conversations the need for so many things to be placed in the schedule. I think of a recent public forum where there was a research proposal for more recess time even. So there's constantly this demand for more things to take place during the day. So I was curious, is there any direction from the district? And then I have a comment that's completely separate.
Thank you, Dr. Mayor. Absolutely. I say unapologetically, as often as I can, we have some of the most brilliant and professionally capable school leaders anywhere in the country. And so with that recognition and acknowledgement, there are still some non-negotiables that comes from the district that requires them to implement, right? Some of our, not directives, but big initiatives with fidelity. However, we try to balance that with acknowledging that principals know exactly what they're doing, what they need to do. And so we allow a lot of agency and autonomy. And that's why we are seeing some progress and gains in some of our interim goals and guardrails. But yes, so it's both. There are just some initiatives that requires us to provide sort of that top-down guidance to school leaders around some non-negotiables, right? One of those certainly will be, let's use the science of reading. While that's not in all of our schools, the aspiration is for that to be in every school. But there are other places where principals will certainly utilize their, I'll qualify by saying their bound autonomy around how they run their schools every day. Yep.
Thank you. And then a really quick comment. I didn't want to share this first and preface the question, but certainly appreciate this being part of the curriculum and part of what's important in the schools. I have the pleasure of working with social emotional learning in my professional life, and in the higher education space, we often see that if they don't have this grounded, I really appreciate the comment earlier about this isn't in competition of academic success. They both are needed and they're both required. So certainly appreciate the district pushing this.
Thank you, sir.
Dr. Roberts, just one question, excuse me, on page 4, in reference to professional learning related to teachers, you, under what's not going well, said that 100% attendance at SEL champion meetings. What's the attendance rate?
Under what's not going well?
Yeah, under what's not going well, you said 100% attendance
at SEL champion meetings. So the SEL champions, I believe, they convene. They have some convenings where they are providing professional development to teachers. Again, it's competing priorities. 100% attendance is ambitious. It's an ambitious aspiration.
Right.
But when teachers have to navigate so much on their plates, we're not there yet. And so it's an area, by highlighting it in that column, we're acknowledging that we need to find creative ways to free up teachers' time to get them there.
I have just a couple of comments. One being around, I'm guessing that there is quite the dichotomy and you must grapple with how much autonomy to give and how much direction to give your leaders. And I appreciate in many of the responses that you have in the report that it is based on data and research proven and research backed. So I hope that in the future, when building leaders are deciding how to prioritize and what to prioritize, that it is based in the data and the research, all coupled in with what it is that we're hoping to achieve in our goals and our guardrails. And I know that it's a lot to juggle, and I'm grateful for that continued focus on the data and research that this goes with, that it truly does need to be hand in hand in order for both of those items to improve both student outcomes as well as that the student social emotional learning. So thank you for that. And then the other comment that I had was just regarding process. The board received a note catcher regarding our guardrails this week. Board members asked a plethora of questions. Thank you to you and your team for answering all of those in detail. Will those questions and answers be made available on board docs for our community members to see, or is that down the road that we'll be working towards that?
Yes, and thank you. Thank you, Board, for Board Member Maturano for highlighting that. And we appreciate your willingness to embrace the new process being led by our Director of Data Assessment and Evaluation in collaboration with, of course, yours truly. Yes, we certainly want to make those available as we continue to operate with a spirit of transparency.
Can you just say more, actually, because I think I actually missed I mean, I love the idea, don't get me wrong, but can you explain the transition to note catcher and how that actually moves it into a public arena? Or am I two separate things?
So the note catcher essentially captured all of the questions that board members had regarding Guardrail 2 and Guardrail 4. And all of those questions, all of the answers were provided by Dr. Roberts and team in that note catcher document. So it's essentially all of the monitoring questions and answers in writing in one document. So I would find it beneficial to have that for the public to see. I think I put maybe 30 questions in there. It was a lot. And other board members put questions in as well. So I know that there's a huge amount of information in there regarding the monitoring of this particular guardrail and future guardrails if we're going to continue with the process.
And I think my question is just a process question, because I know I just emailed, like we usually do, I emailed my questions to you, right? And then forwarded the answers back. So just for clarification for process, are we supposed to change the way we are submitting our questions?
By the request of Dr. Roberts and team, he had sent that request
Missed
to the
that,
board,
clearly.
yes.
Didn't read it.
No, that's fine, Madam Chair. Thank you for asking that clarifying question. Our intent is to refine the process. And on behalf of the team, we are just tremendously grateful for the board's flexibility as we refine the process to get to a place of an exemplar, right? And so that's where we are right now. Today is the first at-bat with not only utilizing the note catcher, but at least the sort of the cadence and run of show of having our celebrations, providing a little bit of a high-level update, utilizing a PowerPoint deck, and then the third is to engage in the board superintendent conversation. So the note catcher is intended for us to refine and streamline those questions, even when there are 30 from one board member.
And and in the spirit of continuous improvement, I would say board members, please provide feedback to that process so that we can continue to refine it and get better as a governing team and improving just the overall understanding of where we're at in our pursuit to honor this value. That being said, I would say we can turn it over, unless there's any final comments or questions. We can navigate into Guardrail 4, the next item on our agenda.
Thank you, Mike Lord, one of our senior leaders.
Good evening, Board, Dr. Roberts. I am here representing, being one member of our cross-departmental safety team, representing portions of Guardrail 4. And I am honored to introduce Amy Lau and Jolyn May. Amy is the principal at Brody Middle School. Jolyn is the associate principal. And they have led intentional and impactful efforts to enhance safety and security for all students and staff at Brody Middle School. Through their focused work around comprehensive school threat assessment guidelines, CSTAG, you'll hear often, and we love our acronyms, so I want to be sure that we define those. Implementation of standard response protocol, you'll hear that as SRP, and the integration of advanced safety technology through the Governor's Safety Bureau grant. They have established a proactive and responsive safety culture within the school. Their strong collaboration with Des Moines Public Schools public safety officers has further strengthened these efforts. They are creating a comprehensive and coordinated approach to school safety, and their leadership continues to ensure that Brody remains a safe and secure, supportive environment for learning. And we've invited them to speak to some of their intentional actions and work that they've done so far this year. So without further, I'll turn it over to Amy.
Thank you, Board. I do just want to point out, Guardrail 2 is in service of this guardrail. If we did not teach social emotional skills in our elementary, middle, and high schools, safety would be an issue. We heard from elementary and high school today. Middle school is also working hard on implementing Wayfinder in our classrooms. We do currently have advisory. We have advisory in all the middle schools next year. Brody specifically is having advisory first period, so when students come to school, they get to settle in, talk with their friends, enjoy an activity. But then in all middle schools, we are bringing all of our advisory kids back to that same space at the end of the day, because one thing we've learned in middle school is kids need to be taught how to organize all their stuff. And what better way to do that, to go back to that same teacher, that same space with the same kids, and talk about their day and reflect on that, and then also think about, what do I need for tomorrow to be successful when I get to school? So now that the middle schools are also working hard to implement social emotional learning and all the things when it comes to advisory and closing circle at the end of the day. We do have some positive impacts. Come on up here, Jolyn. I promised I wouldn't ask her to say anything, but we do have some positive impacts at Brody. Quick shout out to Will Cannon. He is our restorative safety coordinator. He should be here, but he is at his son's baseball game, but we told him it was canceled, so he should just drive on over here. And also Deborah Carr. She has been a huge support to us at Brody when we are navigating these difficult conversations. And of course, Dr. Johnson also, who is our support and director at the middle schools. So at Brody, we are proud to lead the district in implementing the Comprehensive School Threat Assessment Guidelines, which is called the CSTAG protocol. This approach has enhanced our ability to manage student behavior and potential threats in a consistent, evidence-based manner. Since adopting CSTAG, we've addressed a range of concerning behaviors, including student-to-student threats, random outbursts, and student-to-staff incidents. The majority of these cases have been assessed as transient, meaning they don't pose any threat to anybody, but there is a small percentage that have required further intervention. This structured approach has significantly improved our ability to de-escalate situations early and reducing disruptions and improving overall school climate. We had a situation recently where if we didn't ask these questions to the student and their family, we wouldn't have known that this student needed the extra support when we think about his mental health. And so we were really glad that we asked all those questions and were able to give this family the support that they needed. The Governor's School Safety Grant has provided critical support in enhancing our physical security infrastructure. With this funding, we at Brody purchased 24 new Motorola R7 radios. We upgraded both interior and exterior camera systems, and we added a badge reader at key points of entry and exit, particularly for recess, which we have implemented this year, for our staff and students to get back in the building easily, and for extra after-school curricular activities. These upgrades have streamlined our communication, improved our ability to monitor the campus in real time, and enhanced controlled access to the building, resulting in a safer environment for our students and staff. In addition, our collaboration with public safety and having an assigned zone officer has strengthened our school security. These officers have played a vital role in assisting Des Moines Public Police Department when needed, when they need to do safety sweeps or managing any situations that might involve something dangerous or a prohibited item on the campus. Their consistent presence and their quick response capabilities have been instrumental in maintaining a secure and supportive school environment. And we did talk about that this week, and it is nice to have a consistent face when a security person shows up at the building, and it's good for our kids to see that they're there to keep us safe. So we're still working on implementing all things safety at Brody and implementing Wayfinder and social emotional learning, but we do believe it's important, and it's important to treat all threats the same, and that CSTAG has been really supportive with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy. Just a sort of a point of offering a definition. I know we've been talking a lot about our use of acronyms, and I'm glad that Amy unpacked it. And by its very definition, really, CSTAG is a model or a framework that allows multidisciplinary teams in schools and school districts to actually proactively respond to and prevent incidents of violence, crises, or create safe environments. And so they're utilizing the model with fidelity. Yeah.
Dr. Roberts, I have a question just about the mention about the RSC and some of the resources, the zone assignment for, I assume, it's both public safety, but then also maybe for DMPD. But I guess broadly, are they unique, or are the resources being applied, the RSC and all of the other supports, consistently to all the schools, or is there discretion by the building leader? I'm just trying to understand how much of that is discretionary versus everybody has it.
So it's twofold, right? To ensure daily operational excellence in each of the buildings, building leaders have that autonomy and they're doing that work. However, we have a district safety team that meets once a week or as needed. And they have a wide representation of different individuals across the district. So our commitment to safety and security really allows us to make sure that we're looking at that hybrid of guidance from our district's safety team that convenes once a week. And then school leaders have a ton of support, particularly, and I'll talk a little bit about this from our public safety team, where you're going to see in the data that we are also increasing the number of public safety officers that we've hired. So, yeah.
Dr. Roberts, will you be going through the presentation this evening, or is that just there for our reference?
It's there for your reference, but I'm happy to if there's an appetite or desire for us to do so.
Nope, that's
Yeah,
okay.
But I'm excited about where we are. Sorry, I'm Board Member Matarana. Just to really share just two things, right? While we are excited that this guardrail really looks at both students and teachers, and it's about their perception of where we are and how we're feeling. And we've seen an increase in terms of the sense of belonging from students. We're exceeding the target for students. We're not with teachers, but what I'll say is across the board, when we unpack that data, some of the questions that teachers are expected to answer includes their response to, my supervisor cares a great deal about my personal safety. My supervisor creates opportunities for me to really express my opinion and disagree with them. My supervisor cares about my well-being. And what we've seen across the board is teachers are responding favorably to that. And so it's kudos not only to our teachers, but to those individuals who are serving in positions of leadership that are creating environments not only around personal safety, but psychological safety. In terms of personal safety, I think it's important to acknowledge, first of all, and express gratitude to the board for your continued push and willingness to have our safety team, certainly under the auspices of Associate Superintendent Smith, Dave Berger, and our new safety director, Mr. Mitchell, where we've invested in utilization of AI technology, right? Where we're looking at sophisticated and up-to-date weapons detection systems. We're constantly looking at where are there places and opportunities for us to increase our personnel. And this year, I think we've increased personnel going into the next school year by either 8 or 10 officers. Right? And then finally, what is not necessarily reflected here is our commitment to the psychological safety of not only our students, but our teachers and other adults who serve students. So we're going to continue to grow in this area. What I want to highlight, and Amy referenced this, is there's a positive correlation between the results or outputs from guardrail 2 and 4, when we create opportunities for and get more traction around our SEL tenets, we're likely to see improvements around the psychological safety data.
Ms. Murderano, just so I'm clear, guardrail 4A is a celebration because we're exceeding the target. I do think it would be worthwhile if 4B is to be monitored as well. Just, Dr. Roberts, I'd love to understand, because there's some successes, but we have insufficient movement toward the target. So for staff, and so I'm wondering, and I read this and it's really dense with information. I'm not necessarily seeing, it's not punching through what we're doing to improve staff, teacher and staff safety, and that's coming out the wrong way. I know we are, but the strategies or tactics are not punching through for me. So what are we going to do to receive movement towards
I
the
appreciate
target?
you saying that, Ms. Norris, because I was reflecting on us really going around and around about this guardrail, and I think, Mr. Dix, you were very passionate, I'm sort of remembering, about our teachers feeling unsupported in the classroom and not having the tools to be able to address and respond to maybe student behavior in the classroom, not feeling supported by all the adults in the building in some of these situations. And I feel like, you know, I'm really interested because I do feel like we've done a lot over this last year or made a lot of progress towards trying to create a better environment for learning. And so I appreciate you calling that out, and I'm just trying to understand how you think about this, Dr. Roberts, maybe with the lens of us really wanting to think about teachers in the classroom, psychological and physical safety when we talked about this guardrail, if I remember it correctly.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you, Board. I'm happy to respond. And similar to the expressions that you have just brought into the space, we continue to also prioritize safety, not just physical and personal safety, but psychological safety. When the board brought this to the forum last year, we did our due diligence. We did not want to necessarily refute the data you were sharing because perception sometimes is reality. But we went back and unpacked the data that we have around teachers' reports around feeling unsafe. And, you know, while there are some teachers who've shared their personal experiences, we nowhere have captured or received reports around this sort of significant amounts of personal safety that teachers are struggling with. But we paid very careful attention to that data. And what we've done instead is we have, of course, implemented a wayfinder curriculum to make sure that our teachers have a place where they can start to think about how they and their students are navigating the socio-emotional space. Secondly, we've continued to sort of engage in lots of conversations with our safety and security team to ensure that we are truly prioritizing personal safety and physical safety. In terms of psychological safety, we have a wellness program that our talent and personnel team is committed to. We've incentivized our teachers with what is called our Healthy You program. And then our school leaders, there's not a single school leader who isn't open and responsive to the needs and asks of our teachers. You know, we doing our recent collective bargaining discussions with our partnership with our DMEA. They have brought up, right, questions about safety. And what we've shared with them is we need to continue to maintain this really strong relationships and partnership. And as a result, I believe we have a DME representative on our district safety and security team. And so I certainly really appreciate and value the board's continued concern and wanting to push us around what steps are we taking to make sure that teachers are truly feeling safe. I think some of the complaints that we had received or concerns were with regards to teachers who are teaching our littles in kindergarten through third grade. And some of those challenges that we've looked at in terms of student behaviors are the result of just a number of our students coming to these regular classrooms without some of the supports that they would have ordinarily received in their earlier years. And we're continuing to work towards ensuring that we are supporting our young people, but also supporting teachers. And so thank you. Keep pushing us. And we also want to hear from our teachers, right, when they're having years of struggle and challenge.
I appreciate that comment because I do want to push just a little bit more, Dr. Roberts, on the scores because they aren't necessarily moving in the right direction quick enough. And so I'm wondering, when I look at some of these where the lowest growth is, and so this is on page 9. So it's, my supervisor creates an environment that is trusting and open. I feel free to express my thoughts, feelings, and disagreements to my supervisor. How are we equipping our supervisors to ensure that they are trained in best practices around supervision, and or what targeted, I'm going to use your word, interventions are taking place to try and move some of these numbers?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I really appreciate that question. And as we look at the survey statements that you referenced, so my supervisor creates an environment that is trusting and open, and I feel free to express my thoughts, feelings, and disagreements to my supervisor. These aren't technical skills, right? These are adaptive skills. These are skills that require those individuals who are in positions of leadership to grow and flex their empathy muscles, but where they're spending an inordinate amount of time not only observing teachers and providing feedback about practice, but creating environments that is safe, offering a listening ear. In instances where that is not happening, that's where the talent and personnel team and I will certainly receive that feedback and then have those conversations with supervisors who are not necessarily creating those environments, and utilize a coaching stance or approach so they can grow.
So the feedback, I'm just trying to understand the feedback mechanism. So if this is taking place for a staff person where they don't feel like their supervisor is creating that type of environment, their process is either to try and obviously have a conversation with their supervisor, and if not, to I'm just trying to figure out how the feedback actually is getting
Absolutely,
to the
absolutely, yep.
supervisors.
So we have the benefit again of having a sort of multi-layered hierarchy. And so let's take for example a teacher who is not necessarily having an experience that we want to value can do a couple of things, right? The first is every single supervisor under the guidance of our talent and personnel team is expected to conduct stay interviews, right? And the stay interviews, while it occurs once or twice a year, allows a person to express and share what their experiences are. Secondly, if a teacher is not having a good experience and they have an immediate need, and if that experience is with their immediate supervisor, they have at least 2 or 3 different layers of individuals to whom they can reach out. And then finally, our executive cabinet, we have set for ourselves a mission or reason for existing that says that we want to inspire and nurture the presence and existence of every person. And we encourage teachers and staff to reach out to members of the executive cabinet. As a superintendent, I have an open door policy. And I have to tell you, throughout the last 2 years, I've heard from a number of teachers and staff members. And I don't believe that, and I'll say this with the utmost confidence, that I have not responded to a teacher or staff member who has reached out. If they've asked for anonymity, we grant that, but we are responsive. And if we're not being responsive, we are creating spaces to receive feedback.
I appreciate that. It's just so important, right?
Yeah.
That supervisors are encouraged to use their empathy muscle and or coached. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Board members, additional questions regarding Guardrail 4 and staff safety?
Just a clarification. Dr. Roberts, on page 6, the CS tag, you mentioned that it's available for online for staff, that they have access online. But then that's under actions and strategy. For what is going well, you also say that there is a high-level overview that will happen pre-school year 2025 or 2025, 2026. Is this training something that everyone has to complete before school year 2025? When you talk about the training available online, is that something that staff or teachers have to complete, and then there is that overview happening?
I'll look to the team for specifics. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for that question. Yes, for CSTAG, it's multi-layered. So what you're speaking to is the 6-hour level 1 is available online for all staff if they choose to want to go through and learn the process and the background on there. We also have level 2, which is primarily for designees within the building, administration as well. Those are the ones that's a level 2 training that will provide what Principal Lau was speaking to, of how when they do CSTAG investigations and following through on the questions and the process there. The 1 hour and the high-level overview will happen during pre-service time, and that's where our buildings will have district-directed designated time for our leaders. Will have priority information, and then they will provide that with their staff, and there will also be a 1-hour video that they can share with their staff as well. So that's where that high level comes in, is where we're offering opportunities for building knowledge and background with all staff, and then having a close team at every building that will be responsible for providing the investigations and things like that.
So for, just a follow-up question. So the high-level overview is what we could say people will have to participate in, because everything else is voluntary, right?
Correct. The 6-hour online would be a completely voluntary, and that'd be just a deeper, again, that 1 hour high level will give them exactly that, a high level. The 6 hour would be more depth to them, but be voluntary. The 1 hour won't be.
Thank you.
You bet.
Thank you, Mike.
I had one final question for slide number 9, or page number 9, excuse me. First, is just acknowledging I was really excited to see that I feel safe in my work environment increase and to be at a 3.97. When I think about this question, I know there are a lot of pieces to it, but this is probably one of the first things that comes to mind is, are teachers feeling safe within their work environment? And as I look at the rest of these, many of them are above the aggregated amount of the 3.9 that we see as the on the monitoring report. My question is, there must be some survey statement that's below a 2 or a 2.5 that's bringing that average slightly down. So just trying to better understand, maybe what is one of the survey statements that's in that 2 range or significantly lower, I don't know if it's a 2 or not, that is bringing the average down.
Thank you, Dr. Miriam Mays. That's something that I want to ask the board's permission to go back to the team and take a look at that, and then for us to take action. That certainly rises to the surface as a data point we need to unpack. Yep.
Just one more question. Page 6, Dr. Roberts, crisis intervention planning. I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about the increased services and providers in schools that support the additional support available to families, because that has changed. It's increased according to what you mentioned. So I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about in what areas those have increased.
Yeah, so these are increased partnerships with service providers. I would certainly ask the team to share a little bit about not only the amount of increases, but maybe where there are 1 or 2 instances where we've increased partners.
Or the collaborations, perhaps.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Jen.
I'm Jen Stalder. I supervise the success program for the district, and I sit on the multidisciplinary safety team. And I would say one of the primary increases in support for families is the partnership with Hazel Health. That was introduced last summer, I believe it was. It's an online telehealth for mental health support for students, and we have been actively referring to students. So where we have buildings that don't have mental health providers in the space in person, or where the family prefers to have that mental health support happen in their home. We've been able to make those referrals to Hazel, and that is a big increase in support that is available when we don't have physical space or providers in our community that can meet that need. So that is one of the areas we look at with that increased support. You're welcome.
Thank you, Jen.
Yep.
Board members, additional questions regarding Guardrail 4? Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Roberts. Back to you, Madam Chair.
Ms. Martirano, correct me if I'm wrong, but we will accept, I'll have to put forth motions to accept the guardrail reports, correct?
That is correct. These are action items. Let me just.
Yeah, I'm
Nope,
comfortable
They
doing that.
are discussion and action items. So I would like to make a motion to accept item D1.
D2. Oh, D1, thank you.
D1, guardrail 2.
There is a motion by Ms. Martirano. May I have a
Second.
second? There is a motion by Mr. Dix, second by Mr. Dix. Any discussion or questions?
Quick question and comment. I just wanted to say I really appreciate this iteration of the monitoring process. I know this has been something, a point of contention for a while. So thank you, Kim, and to the team who helped develop this different process. I feel like I could ask genuine questions without being out of compliance. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Cast your votes, please. The vote is approved 7-0.
And I would like to make a motion to accept item D2, guardrail monitoring report 4.
May I have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Martirano and a second by Mr. Dix. Any discussion or questions? Board members, please cast your votes. The vote is approved 7-0. That was wonderful. Thank you so much. We are now going to move to the consent agenda. As a reminder to the board and public, the board will not engage in discussion or deliberation with a speaker regarding comments made to agenda items. Discussion and deliberation will remain among board members at the board table with speakers' comments informing the board's discussion, deliberation, and determinations as deemed necessary. Ms. Jenkins, do we have any speakers? Ms. Martirano, I believe you have the consent motion.
I do. I move that the board approve the consent items in accordance with the recommended action for each item on the consent agenda, including bills previously authorized, certified, and approved for payment by the board secretary in the amount of $4,028,939.23.
We have a motion by Ms. Martirano. Is there a second? We have a motion by Ms. Martirano, a second by Ms. Campos. Any discussion or questions?
Just a comment, Madam Chair, and this would be for the last 3 or 4 weeks. The personnel report has just been something, it is something I know many of us go through just to look and see what's going on. This seems like it would just be a matter of, process that we go through, but I just want to let the teachers out there, particularly the ones that we're not going to see in our classrooms next year, know that we are noticing your absence. I want to say congratulations and thank you to the ones who are moving to a different position in the district, and we will miss them in their old classrooms. But I just want the teachers to know and the administrators to know that this is not something that we just pass up here at the board table and don't look at. I think a lot of us look at that list and are sometimes really happy to see what's going on and sometimes really sad to see a teacher moving on to sometimes bigger and better things. So just that comment, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dix. Board colleagues, I find myself with a conundrum as it relates to the consent agenda. So if you look at item E3, E3 is, now I lost is about student fees. And some of you may recall we had a robust and healthy discussion about this topic last year, both on student fees, but then also, and I'm looking for Kaylee, on community use fees. And I didn't hear anything, and I'm not sure Shashank heard anything, Dr. Roberts heard anything. And I do want to make sure that everybody has, and you can be honest, taken the time to look at the student fees section. And if you haven't, we do have until June 17th, and we could pull it to make sure people have had the time to digest it, because it's come up regularly. So does everybody feel comfortable that they've had time, or would they prefer a couple of weeks to just read through it and ask any questions? Because it has to do with what we're allowed to charge students and what the law states and what our practice is.
I would appreciate time.
Just a point of clarification, is this, is there a statute around this, or once we pass this, can it be amended? I know that the giving people time and runway for the year is the intent here, so that everybody can know what the fees are, but.
Yep. I think, Shashank, we have to do this annually.
Yep.
And I think it's best for everybody to understand what the rules are around what DMPS can collect and what they can't collect, so that we're all on the same page. So I'm going to suggest that we, as long as Shashank has said it's okay, we'll wait and we'll do this, or we'll wait until June 17th. And what I'll ask is everybody submit your questions ahead of time. So ideally, we'll keep it on consent, but you'll have had a chance to take a look at it. Okay? So with that, we are going to have to make a...
Unwind.
Yeah. Well, we'll just have to separate. So Ms. Martirano will have to amend. I'm going to make a friendly motion to amend the consent motion and ask to support the consent motion minus E3. May I have a second?
Maria Alonso. Alonso, second.
So we have a motion by Ms. Norris and a second by Ms. Alonso to amend the consent motion, sans minus E3.
Yes.
So we need to vote on that.
Yes. Board members, cast your votes. The vote is approved, 7-0. The consent agenda items are approved, 7-0.
That just approved the amendment. Now we need to vote on the previous.
Correct.
We're approving the consent agenda. Next, there's a motion and a second by Dix on the table to approve the consent agenda.
All those in favor, say, cast your votes.
Yes.
Okay, the vote is approved, 7-0. Now, Mr. Martirano, I believe you have the actual motion to be read. Did you read it
I've already read it, yes, and we've received a second. Yep.
You're good.
Okay. Yep, all right. This is riveting,
You're good.
riveting. Where are we going next, team? Are we good? Can we move on? F1. Okay, great. Board Policy 740, I'll just call out, again, a thanks to Kaylee, thanks to Patrick, thanks to Anna. This is the naming board policy. So any of you who have questions, public who have questions, please take a look. This policy, I assume once approved, will be posted, and you can find it under the 700 series. Items of privilege. Now we have items of privilege. Board members, would you like to share anything? Did I forget something?
Signature school presentation.
Work session. Yep, so items of privilege.
During Pride Month, I would just like to honor our LGBTQ plus community, our students, our staff, and families, and acknowledge the ongoing challenges that we face as a district. I recognize the unique challenges that the state and legislation have put upon us, and want to honor what many students and staff face, including bullying and mental health issues. I think this aligns very well with our guardrail conversation today, both guardrail 2 as well as guardrail 4. And know that during Pride Month, I encourage everyone to expand their learning and their reading and the dialogue that occurs within our community. And I just want to recommit my focus on equity and justice for our students, staff, and families. So happy Pride.
Other board members?
Second, everything that Ms. Martorano has shared. Thank you. Thank you for acknowledging that.
Madam Chair, I'm just reminded as we go into the last few days of school, it's been the last couple of weeks of school, but there have been some days in our house where we've had students wondering why they're going back, and it just reminds me to sort of refocus on the idea that every day is important in school for us. And as we go into the summer, I think back to some of our monitoring reports this year, particularly around reading. And I think that's the one that I would want to focus on. If you are a parent listening to this, read with your kids tonight, tomorrow, every day over the summer, any day that you can. If you know a kid who could use some help reading, please reach out. If you want to volunteer reading, we have great programs in this community to do that, and wonderful library systems in the city of Des Moines that would allow us to do that. I just would encourage our families, our students, to not let that slide happen over the year, and really dig in on our reading over the summer as we head into the summer. Just what they want, more work as they go into the summer months. But encouraging everybody to make sure that we don't backslide a little on our reading.
That's great. Patrick, I don't know. Is it on? No.
No,
Testing.
No.
you can't talk.
It's just, okay, yay, thank you, thank you. That's, Patrick, I was just gonna, I love what you're saying. I've tried this. My kids now have to read on the way to school. So they have 10 minutes, and my 7th grader puts a timer on to make sure it's exactly 10 minutes on the drive, not a minute more of reading. I want to say thank you to the staff and to the teachers for what I think has been the best year I've had in Des Moines Public Schools as a parent, selfishly, but also as a school board member. And I have a middle schooler who participated in every sport and activity I could get her into. And I looked around at a lot of those evening events and saw a lot of teachers, a lot of familiar faces that I see sitting here with us at school board meetings. And you all make the magic happen, and you do it for not a lot of gratitude, certainly not the money. And so I just want to say from the bottom of my heart to all of the staff members who not only teach the kids in the classroom, but also make sure that we are able to give our students those really important extracurricular opportunities. They would not happen without dedicated staff. And so thank you for a wonderful year. Looking forward to bigger and better in 25, 26.
I want to thank Dita Youngman she's a multi-language learner from a teacher at Hyatt Middle School. Maria and I were able to go to their El Party multicultural celebration last week. And this is the second year that they've done this celebration, just showing off the success of their students in ELL, and the parents that showed up, and the kids that were so embarrassed but so excited to get their award. It was just really heartwarming for me to be there and be present. And so I just wanted to thank Hyatt Middle School for putting this on, and I can't wait to be there next year.
Thank you for reminding me. I'm sorry, I'm going to go second time. Thank you for reminding me of that. And as Jenna was speaking, I'm like, oh, I forgot to share this because I remember just hearing you speak, the feeling of seeing students come up and yes, very shy, but at the same time, very excited, and parents that were there supporting and the work that went into that, and seeing very happy staff be there, just being there for students and families. And that was incredibly rewarding to me. That was beautiful. And so thank you to everyone that worked so hard to make that happen that evening. Great job. Thank you.
I'll offer my last comments by opening and saying Happy Pride Month as well. But one thing I want to do is compliment a comment that Mr. Dix made earlier around the personnel report. I think the one piece that wasn't elaborated on as much is that I'm really excited to see new faces amongst our buildings and our rooms as well. For someone to apply to work at DMPS knowing what is in this near future says a lot about the leadership of Dr. Roberts and their vision for students. So I'm really excited to see so many new faces and excited that they're going to join us in this journey ahead.
Well, I get to say ditto, because I really appreciate this. So I'm going to use my time for something very important. Dr. Roberts, are you ready? I was at a career festival fair at Carrie Romo's building.
Goodrill.
Thank you, Goodrill. And there are two fifth graders who had a very important question for you that I told them I would ask. Fazili and Kaneo would like to know why they don't get more recess time.
Thank you, Madam Chair, for that question. Madam Chair, if the board will indulge me, this is where I will utilize my executive position to delegate this to our Associate Superintendent, Matt Smith. And
Yes,
so
nicely.
he will provide you all with a
Okay,
response.
all right. With that, it's your turn. You have any comments?
Absolutely, Madam Chair and Board. Certainly did not bring this into the space of celebration, but let me acknowledge that Des Moines Public Schools truly is demonstrating that we are leading the way in terms of providing every single child who knocks on our doors with a world-class experience. I want to just share a couple of quick sports highlights and also opportunities. This year, we had 3 soccer teams, our high school soccer teams, who made it to the state tournament. Unfortunately, we had some nail biters, and they, in the state playoffs, lost those games. But we were excited because of the dynamic coaching staff, the leaders in the buildings, and students who are returning next year. Also want to share with just a lot of pride that Saleya Villavong, who is a student at North High School, has made, go Polar Bears, I heard that. Third time, for the third consecutive year, she has made the state golf tournament, and she finished 7th in the state this year, so I know who not to invite to tea time. Going into the summer, our work continues. We have 3 different trips to Asia this year as we continue to expand the horizons of our students. I know that Associate Superintendent Matt Smith and Board Member Kim Matarano are accompanying a group of students as a part of our more than 50 years of partnership with the city of Kofu, Japan. And so excited that you are going to be taking students along with some teachers and staff there. Additionally, our Director of Central Academy, Dr. Gorty, taking 39 students to Sichuan, China, as a part of the Sichuan School of Foreign Language. Again, this is at no or minimal cost to our students, right? What rich experiences for our students to have. And then recently, the voices, the dynamic and amazing voices of the Bridges to Harmony, or a choir coming out of Roosevelt High School, have also been invited to sing in front of some dignitaries in China. And we're looking into, again, logistics behind this experience. But you may also recall that recently, Dr. Barad just brought students back from Fiji. And again, there are not too many other places where students are having these very, very rich experiences. And all of this is due in part not only to the amazing work of our leaders, teachers, and staff, but the support of our parents. We have some of the best parents anywhere in the state and in the country. They raise their hands to volunteer. They support the requests and acts of our teachers, our leaders, and certainly of the district. and we don't often spend time just expressing gratitude to them. So we want to thank them as well. Excited about what the summer has to offer. And this summer, we will have extensions of learning, right, at all grade level bands. And certainly we are excited about the work that is going to happen with our elementary school summer school program with Ali Salo, I don't know if she's in here, and her team. But also want to share that Des Moines Public Schools this year is also hosting for the second consecutive year, the National Speech and Debate Tournament. This is their 100-year anniversary, and so in a couple of weeks, we are going to have about 9,000 plus students from all over the world descending upon America's best Midwestern city, Des Moines, hosted by Iowa's best school system, the Des Moines Public Schools. Madam Chair, that concludes this evening's board report.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining us this evening. We appreciate all of you. We are going to adjourn at 7:16. The board is going to take a 5-minute break, and we are moving into an open work session on reimagining education. Board members, you also probably want to get your computers up, I think, because materials were sent, but we don't have them printed, right? So you'll need them by, from your email. Okay, we're going to bring this rowdy crowd back to the table. Come on over.
Do you need me to stay?
No, are we recording it?
I think they are. Yeah, I think it's streamed, isn't it? I'll go ask.
Yeah. No, I'm good. Okay. I think we're good. Thank you, Erin. Appreciate it. Okay, team, let's go. I see Miss Alonzo, Dr. Mayberry Mays. Mr. Smith, do you have the team? Associate Superintendent Smith. Is there okay, the presentation's queued up. All you noisy people back there, let's go. All right, we are just going to go ahead. And I think,
Check.
how do the two of you, Dr. Roberts or? Okay.
Yeah, no, we have a team ready. Madam Chair, before I jump right in, I want to just introduce one of the newest members of our executive cabinet. And I know that we will find another opportunity to name this, but the chief's team, our new chief operations officer, who is here with us this evening, Dr. Rainey Briggs. I want to give him a round of applause and welcome him to the team. And welcome to America's heartland, but the best Midwestern city in the country. So thank you for joining the team. Madam Chair, let me just jump right in, if I may, and share that we started this journey, embarked upon this journey a little more than 16 months ago, where at the board's push and the community's request, we accepted the charge to reimagine Des Moines education and reinvigorate all of our schools, our 64 schools. As a result of the work that was done by the Reimagine Education Committee, led by Associate Superintendent Matt Smith, Amanda Miller, and Dave Berger, we ended up in a place where we really wanted to rethink not just our instructional program and academic sort of frameworks, but we took a hard look at all of our structures, 72 buildings, including 64 that are serving students daily. And the result of that was the average age of our buildings somewhere between 72 and 80 years old. And as we think about reimagining education, it was a unanimous conclusion that there's no way that we can do this with buildings that were not as sophisticated as they needed to be in 2025. And so in partnership with consultants and experts, a number of visits to schools around the country that have done some of the same work, we have made some decisions around what will a 10-year plan look like. And what we've concluded is to reimagine education and reinvigorate our schools would have a generational impact. And with that said, we landed on a number of really key initiatives and goals. And they included, one, our commitment to expand access to preschool. We've seen the data that really tells us that students who are able to attend preschool versus compared to their peers who did not will outperform their peers academically and on social behavioral, social emotional learning measurement. We also have concluded that there were tremendous opportunities for us to think about how can we look at what we were calling signature programs. Those programs that included career and technical education pursuits, allowing our students to really be exposed to academic programs that will allow them to meet this ambitious goal of walking across the stage from every Des Moines public schools by the year 2030, not only with a diploma, but with a diploma plus something else. And that plus something else includes industry-recognized certifications. Additionally, we've looked at other signature programs that have been working very well, producing really strong results. One of those is our Montessori programs. And so we've expanded Montessori, recognizing that some of our highest achieving students are enrolled in Montessori schools. And the goal, as a part of Reimagine Education, is to have Montessori program offerings in every geographic region in Des Moines. But one we were most excited about, as even as I've shared some of those signature schools offering, is where we have gone out into the community on probably 20 plus occasions to offer opportunities for them to provide input around what would they like to see in Des Moines Public Schools as a part of this 10-year ambitious plan. And while we value the input of every single stakeholder, as we thought about our signature schools, we truly valued the input from our students and parents. And one of the most recent surveys where we garnered more than 14,000 responses, and you'll hear more about that, students and their parents overwhelmingly said there are some signature programs we would like to see. They included our STEM focus, career technical education, the arts. Some have even shared they would like to see athletic academies, Montessori, and to a very smaller extent, international baccalaureate or IB schools. Tonight, we are going to unpack for you with some of our leaders on this team, our Associate Superintendent Matt Smith, District Director of Career Technical Education, Tasha Brown. I have to get used to the term and the designation, and our Chief Academic Officer, Rob Lundeen, who will share with you all just where we are with this ambitious, audacious, and bold goal of reimagining education as it relates to signature programs.
And Dr. Roberts, prior to doing that, and Matt, maybe you'll do this, talking through the timeline of our decision-making and the scope, do you want to address that, or Matt, will you?
That's a part of our presentation.
Okay, perfect.
Sure. Yeah, we'll include it in
Right.
part of the presentation. So thanks again for the opportunity to return. Because the last time we were here, you did charge us with developing and identifying signature school pathways. And so that's actually what tonight is about bringing you the results of that survey, as well as a comprehensive analysis and the identification of signature school pathways that we believe are the right fit for our community, the desired pathways, and sustainable pathways that we can move forward and actually will set Des Moines Public Schools apart from all the school districts in the state of Iowa. So just to sort of remind you of that, your charge was for us to bring data back to identify signature school pathways. The goal was to have it back here in front of you before the end of the school year. And so I just want to make that quick celebration that we are here before the end of the school year, right?
Good job.
So we are looking for wins, and that is one that we're going to take right now. So June 3rd, and here we are. This has a few parts to it in terms of tonight's presentation. The first is just sort of the overall results of the actual signature school survey that was sent out at the end of April and first part of May. The second part is sort of the comprehensive analysis that allowed us to create designations of signature school pathways by region. And so it is important to know, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. We use multiple data sets to make that designation and to look at that analysis. So, and we'll jump into that here shortly. But then we've also, thank you again to Director Brown and Dr. Lundeen for being present in this particular presentation to unpack specifically, as Dr. Roberts mentioned, CTE and STEM, because you will see them heavily in our designations because it was very heavy and present in the data. So with that being said, just to sort of hit on a few data points, when it relates to the signature school survey, you were sent just the overall survey results. You don't have to have that out. It's just a reference for you. We're going to cover it in the data set in the slides. But in the signature school survey, there were more than 14,000 responses. Matter of fact, there was actually 14,648 responses, which is a great sample set to have. We also had 7 different languages, actually 8 total, in terms of students and families or respondents that chose a language other than English to respond to the survey in. Some of the most prominent languages were Vietnamese, Spanish, Swahili, Burmese, and German. This particular survey was student and parent focused, and it also, as do almost all of our surveys, have an open-ended response. And so we'll talk a bit more about the significance of that here in just a second. When looking at the overall survey data, a couple things to note is parent and guardian feedback specifically revealed that 65% believe in the value of signature schools. And so anything 60% and above is considered that strongly favorable response rate. And so that was really, really great to see. Some of the themes that were identified by parents in the survey that we provided in May were STEM, Performing and Visual Arts, Montessori, Career Technical Education, IB, and World Languages. So these were very prominent amongst parents in this particular survey set. We threw a few of the charts down there, or the graphs, to highlight some of the student and parent respondent feedback. When you look at the percents of response type, you'll see sort of the breakdown of students grades 3 through 5 versus students grades 6 through 12 versus parent responses. It's really, really nice to see, honestly, in a survey, particularly with more than 14,000 responses, to have 85% of the responses be from students, right? And so lifting up student voices. It was a great response rate from parents as well at 15%. When we look at the responses of percent of parent respondents by region, because we also broke this down by region as well, you'll see that the Northwest had 50% of the responses from parents, the Northeast had 14%, and the South had 15%. When you look at the responses from students grades 6 through 12, the most selected signature school topics in the survey were soccer and athletic performance, business and entrepreneurship, Montessori, and STEM. Related to that, when we asked students about their preferred learning styles and how do they prefer to actually engage in school, engage in instruction and teaching and learning, many of them said hands-on projects, right? Project-based learning, earning college credit with job certifications was also very, very prominent amongst the survey responses for students in secondary. Also was working independently and self-paced and working in small groups. One of the ones that stood out also was listening to experts talk about the subject. And so I highlight that one because that's something that's not often talked about when it comes to exploratory opportunities for students, but students really lifted up, particularly in their comments, that they really, really enjoy adults and others doing the work, coming to speak to them about the work, or even better, going to visit them in the workplace. And so that was super, super prominent in the results that we've got. The elementary student feedback, obviously this is grades 3 through 5, so it's worded a little bit differently for students. But when they were asked about the activities that they would enjoy doing at school, you'll see some of the top responses of drawing or making art, playing sports, or being active. I would categorize that as recess sometimes, right? So I would throw out there that we, I hate to disappoint, but we don't yet have a signature school identified for recess. But there's always possibility to get that done. Students grades 3 through 5 really talked about robotics and robots, and they talked about hands-on learning, growing plants, and taking care of animals was also a really strong theme for our 3rd through 5th graders. When asked, what do you want to be when you grow up, you can see some of the predominant themes that stood out. I think player was associated with soccer player. Just being a player also is that has multiple meanings to it, I believe. And so, we'll support all of it, actually. I love the fact that you see one of the most prominent ones there is teacher, right? We had several 3rd through 5th grade students say, that's actually what I would like to do, right? I want to teach. So that's just, again, another shout out to our staff members of being a model. And when students talk about they want to hear people talk about their work and be involved, the person they're in front of the most is the teacher who's talking about the work of being a teacher and the joys of it and the challenges of it. And so that really, really resonates with our students, and that showed up in the survey data.
Yeah, I think my favorite one is YouTuber.
Yes, YouTuber was there. There's all kinds of really, really great ones. And so when you think about authentic feedback, there's some real authentic feedback in this survey. So now we're going to transition a little bit to, that was just a sort of high-level overview of the survey that we provided in May. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the process and methodology for designating signature school pathways and how that survey is a part of that. There's a lot of words on here, but I thought it was important to lift up that we did use a sort of mixed method of research, right, for a comprehensive analysis. And that sounds complicated, and it somewhat is, but what it means is that we didn't just rely on quantitative data of students selecting from a list. We looked at qualitative data too. So that's why we continuously ask open-ended questions so that we can hear about the lived experiences from students and families and staff that tells a deeper and richer story about what they're experiencing or what they would like to experience. And so we utilize the mixed method research for the analysis so that we can be the very best that we can when it comes to making designations, so that we are providing the best opportunities moving forward for our students in terms of accessing high quality, rigorous, and innovative programming that they are asking for. It's also important to note, I've made a few notes here, that the way we collect a lot of this is not just through the survey, but it's through the one-on-one surveys, right? And so when we looked at, for example, thematic themes in the open-ended responses, that also came through in just one-on-one interviews with students and with families. So again, this work started back in February with the community engagements when we had 19 of those. There was lots of small group, large group, and one-on-one interviews about what they would like to see, about what they want and what they're most concerned about. And so all of that data has been compiled and pulled into a comprehensive analysis to create signature school identifications. The last data point there that I want to just highlight is the integration of labor market data from Iowa Workforce Development on projected growth occupations and workforce needs across the state of Iowa. So it wasn't just about what students and families have been saying and what they're currently saying. It's also about what, in terms of the state of Iowa, what jobs are available. What are the most sought-after positions so that we can create the best programs for students to have that true and authentic option of enrolling, enlisting, or becoming employed immediately upon graduation. And so that was also played a major role in the comprehensive analysis of our work.
Matt, I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you remember a couple of those, or do you have examples of those? What are some of those careers in that data?
Yeah, skilled trades stands out heavily, as well as STEM fields. And some of these are actually going to be highlighted in the signature programs, particularly at North and at Hoover, that you'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, skilled trades was heavy in that data. And I know Tasha has a lot more information about that. So when pulling together all of the data sets, and so not just the survey, but all of them since February, again, this is quantitative and qualitative data. As Dr. Roberts mentioned earlier on, the signature pathways that stand out predominantly across the board are STEM, science, technology, and engineering, and mathematics. And we're going to sort of detail that out here as the presentation moves along. Career and technical education also was a major, major response rate from both students and families across the board in every survey. These things have been consistent responses since February. In addition, medical and health sciences is also very, very prominent in student and family interest. It's also on that list on the Iowa workforce of growth occupations. Performing and visual arts was also very, very prominent in all of our responses. And Montessori also stood out as a desired learning pathway and signature pathway.
Thank you, Matt. If I may, because I certainly for the benefit of the public and community, while we look at where these signature schools are ranked and Montessori is at the bottom, I want to really sort of interject our data gathering experience. And while Matt and the team will continue to really speak to quantitative and qualitative data being utilized, I want to offer that while there was some qualitative data being utilized, we are also looking at the utilization of empirical data. And of course, empirical data is really through the data that we gather through experience and experimentation. And the experimentation that we are referencing here is we've looked at Coles Montessori, for example, and we've seen the results from Coles Montessori. We've piloted at Findlay Elementary, and we are also piloting at Pleasant Hill. And so again, in addition to quantitative and qualitative data that we're utilizing, the reason Montessori is at the bottom here, but we're still moving forward with this as a signature program, is because we are also embracing the value in empirical data.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Roberts. that also sort of alerts me to a couple other points. You'll see there in the title of the slide, all data. Again, this is all data compiled. This is not just the survey that just went out in May, to Dr. Roberts' point. It consumes a lot of data, both qualitative and quantitative, as well as the empirical data as well. The other thing I want to point out is that actually these particular signature schools of interest are not in any sort of order. They are just the most predominant themes of feedback in the responses that we've received to date. When we look at student responses, grades 3 through 12, all data, 60% of students support, there's 60% of students for support for signature schools, meaning strong favorability of students supporting signature school pathways and programming. There's a strong sort of sentiment and desire for students to have those unique programming experiences. And sometimes even in grades 3 through 5, they're described as, I want to be in a lab with a computer. I want to be in a lab with animals. Those things sort of emerge in the data set. When we look at the data for students, the highest interest of signature schools racially for our student body are students who identify as Black. When you look at where students live, it's the East and Lincoln feeder patterns that showed the highest favorability for signature schools. That's not to suggest that the other feeder patterns didn't show high favorability. These were just the highest in our data sets. Also, strong support for STEM, health sciences, and CTE. Again, these are from students. These continue to emerge as consistent themes of feedback. And there is moderate support for performing arts and world languages, specifically from students. Moderate doesn't suggest that it's not desirable. It's desirable uniquely sometimes in a specific region and at a specific grade level. And so that offers up some opportunities for us that I think you'll see in the recommendation. So with that being said, what we'd like to do is talk a little bit about the recommendation of signature school pathways by region. But before I do that, there's a lot of words on this, and so I'm certainly not looking to read that. But I do want to highlight sort of the methodology here, because you're going to see it in the slides. When we talk about primary in the subsequent slides in the presentation, primary signature represents high interest and high alignment. There's consistency in every single data set, and there's alignment from what students are responding with what parents are responding with. There's alignment from quantitative and qualitative data sets. So it's very, very strongly aligned when we see primary recommendations. The secondary recommendations are those that had strong student interest, but they were less aligned with what parents said, and or they were less aligned with what the workforce says. And so it doesn't mean that it wasn't strong, it just meant that there was not the consistency of alignment from data set to data set to data set. So that's why you'll see a primary versus a secondary. It's also important to note what we are recommending is that as a district and as an organization, as a community, when we recommend for a primary signature school, that is the model of the school. A secondary pathway is one based on the information that we have, could be embedded, but maybe not a standalone school signature program. So when you see secondary, it doesn't mean that it can't exist. It just means that we don't have the data to support that it would actually serve as a standalone signature pathway. So that being said, we'll jump into the Northwest. From the data set, right, from the all data set, what was lifted up from across the board with strong alignment in primary pathways was performing in visual arts and STEM. We see that consistently regionally in the Northwest. We also see in the secondary pathways, again, not as strong alignment from students to parents and our workforce, but there's enough data there to suggest it could be a secondary pathway. You see digital media and communications, environmental science and sustainability, and Montessori stood out in the Northwest. The rationale in each of these slides that you'll see is based on just some of the highlights of the data set and analysis itself. And so there was strong interest in the arts among younger students and the community members, parents, which is why that's being lifted up as a primary pathway. STEM, there was really strong alignment with the responses in the Northwest from all respondents and the labor market. The student interest was super high in the Northwest. And there's also continues to be community support for the Montessori program in the Northwest region. So that information led us to this designation and this recommendation. So the pre-K-8 Coles Montessori, there's no surprise there. They are currently operating as such. Moulton in the Northwest region is designated as a pre-K-8 signature school. Based on the information and the data that we have, we recommend that it's a performing and visual arts pre-K-8 signature program. The 712 signature program is Hoover Meredith. We recommend STEM, and you could also see the /STEAM there, as a technology, engineering, and mathematics. But you see STEAM because there's also a strong sort of secondary pathway of the arts. You see it in Moulton's performing arts designation, but there's actually a consistent theme within the Northwest that would allow us to create more of a STEAM environment at Hoover Meredith. It does align with the arts interest there, but the specifics about the STEM program or the STEAM program at Hoover Meredith is that it's technology-based. And so you're going to see a difference in this particular technology-based STEM program versus an engineering-based STEM program. So technology, of course, includes coding, digital design, and media tech, and we're going to unpack that for you in some slides coming up. In the Northeast, the data set was really strong about STEM again. Again, engineering, robotics, and coding stood out in both the quantitative and the qualitative data. Medical health sciences also stood out in the Northeast. Secondary pathways centered on business and entrepreneurship, dual language, and Montessori. Again, just looking at some of the rationale, dual language immersion, again, serves as equity and global readiness goals the district has. It stood out in the Northeast as a potential pathway. And so, along with some of the others, which is why we have the designations that we do in the Northeast, beginning with Pleasant Hill, a pre-K-8 as a Montessori. Again, strong community support. There's a lot of alignment there. Brubaker-Horriet, we see it as a dual language immersion program. Again, supporting bilingual and bicultural identification development, and it aligns with family demand and of course, the workforce. North, we see as a STEM program as well, but again, with a different pathway of engineering focus. Really looking at robotics and the potential of merging biomedical design. Again, in the survey results, specifically in the Northeast, these themes were super heavy, and there was a great deal of alignment. In the South region, the pathways, career and technical education was super strong. It was strong everywhere. It was most strong in the South, in our South region. Also strong there was medical and health sciences again. The secondary pathways there that were lifted up were athletic performance and sports medicine, culinary arts and hospitality, and Montessori. Again, you'll see some of the similar rationale for these data sets, strong labor market demand in CTE, and high student interest in hands-on and career prep fields that support that CTE and the STEM fields. Which is why you see Jackson Pre-K-8 as a Montessori designation that actually provides us with 3 Montessori accessible sites in each region, 1 in each region, but 3 total. And 712 Kurtz would be a CTE-based signature program, specifically supporting aviation, business academy, and agricultural through production and marketing to connect the business, and also environmental science. Again, when you look at the notes and some of the rationale behind that, these are all super, super heavy in terms of the response rates, and there's a great deal of alignment across all data sets. So those are the identifications of the signature pathways by region, by school. Recognizing, though, STEM is listed twice, right? It's listed in the Northeast, it's listed in the Northwest, and CTE is prevalent everywhere. And so we thought it would be really, really helpful to unpack not only what STEM and CTE have in terms of common, what is the relationship between the two, but also when we begin to delineate between a STEM program, a STEM signature school that is centered on technology and one that is centered on engineering, what does that look like, sound like, feel like for students? What would that experience be like? What would be the interests of students that would actually attend a signature school with those designations? So we've got some slides and some information to help sort of unpack that for you tonight. Tasha and Dr. Lundeen, got to give you that.
Yep. Thanks. All right.
Matt, just to
go
touch
ahead.
before you begin,
Yep.
thank you for this. Are you going to go through at some point how you came to choose those buildings? Or is that going to be the next?
Yeah, those buildings, or, yeah, I think,
The actual choice of the sites?
yes. I think that might be the next.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you.
Thank you very much for that.
All right, again, just a reminder that when we use words like CTE and STEM, CTE is career and technical education. Our current Central Campus programming is all career tech ed. And we also are required to make sure that our programming for CTE, federal and state dollars through Perkins and even Iowa Workforce Development funding requires us to be responsive to the labor markets within our region as well. So my role in this presentation tonight is to just really talk about CTE and STEM. We're not putting CTE versus STEM like you might find in some resources because they are interdependent, but they do have some differences, if you will. So Career and Tech Ed specifically focuses on equipping students with practical skills and knowledge for specific trades and professions. So here in Des Moines Public Schools, we have programming in all 6 of the Iowa recognized what are called service areas. And so all of the national 16 career clusters in the state of Iowa are broken into like 6 sections if you think of a pie. And so CTE helps equip and prepare students for skill sets in any and all of those career fields, including STEM pathways. So where they're alike and common is that this is really about making sure that student learning is active. It's very application-based. It is very much about real-world projects in conjunction with employers, which allows for more work-based learning opportunities. And so when we think about like mathematics, for example, and how math applies to construction, that is something that we learn about in CTE, where that then becomes the rigor ramps up and the relevancy ramps up is when they are working with employers, right, and doing projects together and applying all of those skill sets, and their mathematics, within, HVAC or electrical work, for example. CTE does develop student STEM competencies. We are very much focused in CTE on data analysis, computational thinking, and problem solving. And we know from national and local research that all of these areas are critical for attainment of both middle and high-skilled jobs. And again, not all middle and high-skilled jobs require a 4-year degree. Hence, STEM also is a great way to incorporate the enroll, enlist, and employ, which we'll kind of talk about that integration as well. I mentioned that it utilizes applied learning through lots of labs. We have worksite experiences. we like to reach out to our industry partners and make sure that they are aware of the opportunities, not just at Central Campus, but really anywhere in our district, right? To bring that knowledge and that information to our students about what are the possibilities, what are the skills needed, what are the societal challenges that they get to solve within their respective sectors of businesses and industries. And students who access CTE coursework, we focus on our employability skills. We had some of you attend our networking event as well as our mock job interviews that we held here at Central Campus. That's a practice that a lot of our high schools are also doing through their counseling departments with things like senior sessions that are going on. I know East and Lincoln counseling staff are really passionate about ensuring that. So again, it's not just about Central, it's about making sure that students across the district, regardless of site, have access to these types of skills. One of the things that we're seeing, Iowa changed the metrics for college and career readiness standards. It used to be very much focused on ACT. There was a college and career readiness index related to that standardized test. And instead, the state now is quantifying school districts' efforts to build a healthy workforce through a new college and career ready index that recognizes the amount of dual credit that students engage in while they're in high school, the amount of work-based learning opportunities that they have access to within our district. And then the third one that is starting, will be starting this school year, is how many industry recognized credentials do students get within Des Moines Public Schools. So with this reimagining education, reinvigorating schools, it's really, really important that students everywhere have access to these types of things. And so again, regardless of site, you know, there are opportunities with everything that Matt went through of ensuring that all the different regions do have equitable access to not only these skill sets, but these opportunities.
Tasha, can I
Yeah,
ask a quick
please.
question on that comment? So you're saying by region, but not necessarily by building, right? Like the expectation isn't that every child, every student is going to have access to this level of programming if they're not a designated STEM building. I want to make sure I understand. So we still are, we're not spreading ourselves so thin. We're concentrating CTE or STEM resources based on this designation of signature schools. Is that-
So that answer is twofold. From a course offering and career pathway standpoint, that is where our signature schools come into play, of being able to offer maybe unique opportunities from other places around the district. But because of the shift on college and career readiness, right, work-based learning and industry-recognized credentials have always historically lived within career and tech ed. And now in the state of Iowa, regardless if they're in a CTE pathway or on a advanced placement college-going pathway, all students should have an opportunity for work-based learning, right, industry-recognized credentials and dual credit opportunity. Does that kind of help?
If I wanted to access those and I was at a traditional high school, how would I do that?
So that is the work that is currently going on with Goal 3, is ensuring that we are looking at resources to make sure that we have the infrastructure within middle schools to help students and families have some voice and choice, and then ensuring that those opportunities exist within our courses, regardless if they're CTE or core.
Got it, great, thank you. And part of why I was asking too is actually making sure that we weren't spreading ourselves so
yes.
thin that we,
Yeah.
Okay.
Ditto that. Yeah.
Yep. The reason that we are thin in that is really just truly access to resources in a resource-constrained environment. There's a lot of state mandates that have come down in the last 3 years around work-based learning, dual credit, and industry-recognized credentials, but those are unfunded mandates. So it's up to us and all school districts across the state to figure out how we're going to meet those measures, which requires additional staffing, which we know through prior conversations around budget and prioritization and strategic planning, that we have some creative opportunities there. The last thing that I just wanted to point out because this is certainly the passion for me personally and professionally around Goal 3 and opportunities to have more signature programming within Des Moines Public Schools is the opportunities that we have to really hit poverty within our community and ensuring that, again, regardless of space, regardless if you're in a comprehensive high school or you're in a signature school, that you have access to a job that will pay you a family sustainable wage, access to health care and benefits, and upward mobility. And the research clearly shows that those that choose to go into the workforce in a STEM-related area earn 60% more than non-STEM related fields. So I just think that it's a perfect example of synchronicity. I always say that the universe will conspire for our success, that our community data shows that CTE and STEM is a passion regardless of what part of our boundaries our students and families live in, and that there is just a wide world of opportunity for our students that they might not currently know about yet, but we're going to get better at that. Thank you.
So that then brings us into the conversation about what STEM learning is going to look like in practice. And I would be remiss if I didn't say it's my 1-year anniversary with the district. And as I'm thinking about when I came in last year and joined the Reimagining Education Committee, I wasn't sure whether this was going to be just a conversation about facilities or a conversation about innovative school models. And what I can say without hesitation is whether we're talking about STEM, whether we're talking about dual language, whether we're talking about performing arts or Montessori, what we're truly looking at is reimagining school models in a way that changes the way that students learn and that teachers are fostering the learning process. We wanted to show you here what that looks like across those 4 key domains of STEM: science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. And you're going to find a couple of key trends across them. One is that they are interconnected in every way. This is not a model when we put a STEM school together where your schedule is simply going to have a science class, a tech class, a math class, and maybe an engineering class, and those courses work in isolation. Instead, the purpose of STEM education is designed to make it not only practical and integrated, but have a problem-solving approach, integrating the technology aspect and the engineering problem-solving aspect, as noted here on the slide, into all aspects of the instructional process. You'll notice that the STEM model, when it's done right, is integrating high levels of Bloom's taxonomy, of reasoning, of concluding, of drawing explanations that will serve the student not only in that specific subfield, but across their educational endeavors, and where it's highly interdisciplinary in nature, where we want the math and the science teachers to be actively collaborating and talking with each other around not only what they're teaching and how they're teaching it, but how they're fostering a shared set of skills along the way. So there is research from around the world that demonstrates what the core principles of effective STEM instruction are. The information I brought to you here is actually from Australia, from the Australian Department of Education, which has done some amazing work in adopting STEM programs in their schools that have transformed students' university trajectories, work trajectories, and life trajectories. The first 3 principles that we see in effective STEM instruction is, first, a use of inquiry-based learning. That regardless of the course, there is sort of guiding questions and an overarching style of investigation that guides the way that students are acquiring knowledge. That they're interacting with their peers in that learning process, that they're exploring, and that they're getting comfortable with failure, so that they're building active learning into their teaching practices through problem-solving scenarios that encourage students to think critically. The next, and this is where it's so important that we're engaging with our partners in both the business and external community, is that they're solving real-world problems. And to Tasha's point about CTE as well, that's where we're bringing in our partners who can model exactly what the real-world STEM problems that they see in industry and the community, and then make those relevant pieces of learning in the course of a student's 7th through 12th grade experience. It's demonstrating relevance of STEM along the way through the specific learning tasks that are being undertaken and enhancing motivation along the way. And it behooves us, therefore, to be partnering with local businesses and getting students to work on projects that solves real problems to see what they come up with. Again, very strong parallels to CTE. Then that we're, as I mentioned, teaching integrated STEM learning, that we're combining the subject matter of 2 or more STEM subjects into a joint learning experience. That may take the form of creative scheduling. That may take the form of shared teaching and cross-collaboration across the what would have been traditionally 44-minute blocks, so that those cross-content links can be fully explored and utilizing an engineering problem-solving, design-based process, teaching science, math, engineering, and technology. Next, it's clear that for STEM to work, you have to equip and empower teachers, and that means more than simply giving them the right resources. That includes high-quality professional learning opportunities and getting teachers acclimated to what the STEM methodology of instruction looks like in terms of putting the onus of the learning process in the hands of the student. Making sure that they have the up-to-date technology to be able to show not only the relevance of what they're using and that they're able to model the most current practices. But we recognize that in doing so, teachers have the greatest influence on their in-school achievement and engagement in STEM education. That's going to take the form of our curriculum team, our teaching and learning team, thinking critically about the way that we're training teachers and continually keeping them apprised of the best practices within their fields. Next, we know that when STEM is done right, we're creating partnerships between schools, industry, and community. As I mentioned earlier, that those partners work collaboratively not only to identify the problems of practice pertinent to the specific geographic areas that we operate in or the industries that are dominant in our community, but that we're exposing students to the real-world challenges faced in the workplace and inspiring enthusiasm about STEM and enhancing and complementing the curriculum. Next, we're engaging parents and families. We want them to be active in their children's education, and that's the case in no matter which of our schools you look at, but in the STEM field that improves the aspiration and enrollment, achievement, and belief in importance of STEM. Next, that we're using technology as an enabler. This district has done a lot of work over the years in equipping students with one-to-one technology. Now we need to be arming students with the how to leverage that technology to best support high-quality teaching and learning, so that the technology in their hands as well as in the teacher's hands is accelerating student learning and increasing students' confidence and ability in using technology. Technology instruction should not occur in a vacuum. It should be occurring in the context of meaningful learning in science and math and engineering, so that they're getting to apply the use of technology in the course of real-world instruction. Next, STEM instruction, when it's done right, is differentiating for different levels, that we're tailoring to the needs and abilities of individual students, and that we're supporting all students' needs regardless of starting point. That means that effective STEM instruction is inclusive in nature, that it is accessible to our students with special needs, that it is accessible to our students who are coming in as multi-language learners, and that we are being thoughtful about the ways in which we are designing those STEM experiences to make sure they are accessible and inclusive to all. And finally, that we're linking STEM education to 21st century learning. That STEM education is intentionally linked to the development of 21st century skills, such as critical thinking, creativity, and collaboration, because we know those are going to be the skills, as we've talked about with CTE as well, that are highly valuable for students' future careers. There's more that we can go into when it comes to effective STEM instruction, but I guess the crux of what I really want to get across here is this is more than simply looking at what curricula we are putting in front of students. That is a necessary but not sufficient question to ask. What's also critical is how we are going about delivering that instruction and how we are going about instilling in students, to borrow the term of our SEL students earlier tonight, the self-efficacy by which they are the architects of their learning and that they are taking true control over the learning process. That they're using an engineering design process for learning and problem solving, and that they're utilizing student collaboration and teamwork to plan, design, and create solutions to the real world challenges that are being presented to them in the course of their learning. This is going to be a game changer for us and will rub off not only within our signature schools, but will have positive effects across our comprehensive schools as well, because it pushes fundamental questions about what high-quality instruction is going to look like across those content areas and how our teachers and students can be working together in those endeavors. We're going to be going through similar processes of design and examination, inclusive of inputs of students, parents, teachers, and community members and external partners in the other models that we've mentioned as well, whether they be dual language, whether they be Montessori, or whether they be the performing arts.
Dr. Lindeen, just a comment or a question, I guess, which is there's a healthy impatience, for lack of a better term, of wanting to move to getting these signature schools off the ground. And so when we meet next time, it will be helpful to understand the PD or programmatic shifts necessary to get us to that point, ideally in a shorter period of time, not a longer period of time.
Ma'am.
So just reflecting on whether there's going to be additional costs to do that, and just factoring in that there's the building of the building, and then there's actually the training of the teachers and the curriculum.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. Let me also offer, and I value that healthy impatience, but I don't want us to overpromise and underdeliver, because it's important for us to balance that healthy impatience with the race car axiom that says it's better for you to go slow before you go fast. As we're thinking about these significant programmatic changes, we don't want to just provide you with a high-level overview of what we believe those professional development opportunities will be. I would want us to go into the fall before we can create a robust scope and sequence around what is our professional development plan to get us to that place around programmatic implementation.
Yeah, I appreciate that, Dr. Roberts. I think I don't think the board will ever expect the level of scope and sequence, but I think costs, general understanding of costs, because if we're making the decision to stand up a STEM academy, for lack of a better term, we also need to know that we've got the general fund dollars to sustain a program, right? To launch and sustain a program. So I think it's just an understanding of the cost to support this STEM Academy, the cost to launch the STEM Academy, since presumably those are going to all be general fund dollars, right?
Certainly, but we will not have that information in the next month or two, because these are long-term plans around what will a STEM Academy look like at each of these different places. And so what I'm asking is for the board to certainly just allow us sort of that additional time. We certainly want to be impatient as well around erecting these academies, but I know what I'm also hearing under the question is a forecast, a budget and forecast to determine whether or not we will be able to afford, using general funds, this ambitious vision around erecting these academies. But the next time we meet is June 17th. After that is July 8th, and know for a fact we will not have all of that information at that granular level by then. There's no way we can have that information.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to segue the conversation, but I was under the impression, based on all the conversations that we've been having, that for the board to make a decision about moving forward with the bond, we actually have to know that we have the general fund dollars to build and sustain a program. And so you and I can talk offline about
Sure.
how to get there.
Sure.
And whether there's high-level projections and ways to get there. But it is going to require cuts to do this. And so I just think we just have to keep saying out loud, we can't just build a building. We have to actually afford the execution of a program and sustain it. And I know that's an issue that was raised by multiple board members.
And
So,
Madam Chair, if I might, maybe not down to the granularity, Dr. Roberts, but simply an idea of this is the chunk of money that we believe it will take to sustain a signature program, whatever it is, and that leaves us with some choices in other chunks. Not like, okay, we're going to cut this and this and this. That would be the granular detail that I would not expect, because I think those are choices that the board would want to discuss as well. But I think just the idea that, and the transparency around, this is what we believe it's going to take to sustain this program, and that, I think, will give us the broad idea of then, with limited resources, what are the other things that are then choices that we have. It's not making the choices necessarily or a recommendation from you. It's just looking at it and saying, are we prepared to make that choice on behalf of the community with these signature schools? I guess that's the way I would put it, if that helps.
So yeah, Madam Chair, thank you for offering that, we will have an offline conversation, but is it fair also to sort of assume that we are going to spend a number of times iterating, right, on what this looks like as a part of our planning process? But the timeline, I just wanted us to manage expectations around the team. The timeline to have this ready by the next time we meet, I don't think it's reasonable, which is June 17th.
yeah, I mean, I thought that's what we were doing on June 17th. So let's just figure out, I do think that I think we all know that we're heading into a really
Yeah.
rough budget year. And we're simultaneously asking our community to invest in us, which they should, because this is exciting and this is exactly where we want to go. And at the same time, we will be making choices, right? So to fund the type of programming that we want to fund, other things are going to have to get cut. And I just, unless that's wrong, I feel like we need to have a super clear understanding of that reality. And so, because just to build a building and not be able to fund the program over a series of years is not something you want to do or I want to do. So somehow we've got to figure out how we get closer to understanding the costs of doing something like this and the implications on the general fund. So again, I don't want to sidetrack the conversation, but it's a really important question.
Thank you.
One thing that I'm wondering, Madam Chair, is if we believe that this is the right thing to do, if we believe that this reimagining education plan is right for our community to improve the quality of curriculum and instruction our students are receiving, to improve the buildings that they are walking into every day, to improve their experience, there's so many things that it's doing. If we believe that this is the right work as a board, I would offer, and my wondering is do we have to determine what those cuts are going to look like right now, not knowing? Do we have to have that level of granularity? Because even some of the things, as we review the 9 principles of STEM, 4 of them stood out to me of areas of growth for us, and we even heard 2 of them is something that we're working on with regards to guardrail 2 and 4, including innovative scheduling and curriculum coordinators being able to train and hold the PD necessary. So
Yeah, and to be clear, sorry, I'm not looking for that level of granularity. I think we just all have to kind of come into this conversation recognizing that if we're all in for that, and I think we are, and I think we're so excited about it, there are going to be cuts and coming. And I think we all have to be aware of that and be comfortable with that, and getting some understanding of the cost to stand up and sustain a program is something that I think is the fiscally responsible thing to do. So, you know.
So I think ultimately we're going to decide, is it program A or program B? If we are saying that we believe in program A, and I'm simplifying this quite a bit, but if we are saying we believe in program A and this is the best thing to do, reimagining education is the best thing to do for Des Moines Public Schools, why would we consider program B based on what we're hearing?
I appreciate your point. I think it's just helpful to know the implications. So, but I really don't want to.
I think it's because it's a choice between, you're talking about a choice between a school that offers a robotics and an AI class and a mechanical engineering class, and these hands-on experiences cost money. And the training and the maintenance of those things cost money. And we still have to have Roosevelt High School and Lincoln High School that offer a 4-year math, science, language arts that gets a kid to a very traditional college and law degree, which is not one of our signature schools. We want to offer all of those things, and where I fear is that we are already struggling with those costs with limited resources, and we are going after a bold vision here. I want to do that, but I think I would agree with the chair in that a clear-eyed view of at least the big dollar amounts that we're looking at here, and a ballpark, not something like you said it was going to be this and it was going to be this. Give us an idea. You're the experts. That's what I'm looking for. I don't know how to conceive this. I don't know what it costs. And so to help understand what our investments should be and to help the public understand that as they invest in this, I think that's where I feel like it's a good idea to go into it with clear eyes.
I'm going to make a suggestion.
The way that you framed it of being, how can we, as a board, approve moving forward with a bond request if we don't know that number? And I guess having this vague just number wouldn't help me move forward with understanding that this is the right path forward for the Des Moines Public Schools community. So thank you for having that conversation.
No, I think this is a really important one. And Dr. Roberts, I wonder if this is actually a little bit of the frame of June 17th, maybe not at that granular level, but I thought Shashank was preparing to present on 5-year projections on June 17th.
Yes, so Madam Chair, around costing on June 17th, may I offer, and I think there's an opportunity for us to have some clarification around the purpose of the bond. The purpose of the bond is not programmatic and instructional changes. The purpose of the bond is physical spaces and capital.
But you have to make sure we can sustain the programming. That's I think that's just the question, right? Which is, you can build something, but can you actually launch and sustain a program? And so I think that's an important thing to know also. And so somehow we either just need to know going into this that there will be other things that are going to be sacrificed, and that's okay because this is our direction. But I think it would be helpful to understand how something so great is actually might have budgetary impacts. So I'm going to recommend we keep going because this is getting to be a little longer, I think, than planned. I do want to suggest that Dr. Roberts, maybe you and I and Patrick and Skylar can just sit and just understand both what was supposed to take place on the 17th and how we get to a place where we continue to show absolute support for this, but also have to understand how our general fund dollars are going to launch and sustain the actual programmatic elements.
Absolutely, yes.
Do you have the next couple, do you have these? Or do you need me to do those? Are you doing those?
So, as you can see, the discussion around what would be going into the STEM model is highly compatible with those principles. In the North High School proposed campus, focus areas would be around engineering systems, robotics, and biomedical design. And it's, as you can see, they're ideal for students who like solving hands-on problems, enjoy building mechanical systems, are curious about how technology supports healthcare, and might be interested in careers such as engineering, architecture, medical technology, or robotics. It's tailor-made for the kind of STEM program that we've been talking about. Those key learning outcomes: students engaging, as we mentioned, design-based problem solving using industry tools and lab-based applications. Curriculum can include Project Lead the Way, biomedical simulations, and engineering technology and platforms. And here's some examples of potential project and capstone experiences. Making sure that the way that we are measuring mastery within an effective STEM model is authentic in both the learning process and often the product. So the Autonomous Robotics Challenge, biomedical prosthetic design, bridge and load-bearing structure analysis, all of these demonstrate relevance to the learner of what they're learning in a meaningful gauge of mastery of the core content across all parts of the STEM program. Hoover Meredith, you see that we've got the technology-centered STEM or STEAM, and I've learned as an adopted Iowan that there is some confusion about what the A stands for in STEAM. I came from a place where it stood for arts, and I was told very quickly in Iowa it stands for agriculture. So for the purposes of this conversation, I'm going to defer to my instinct, which is arts, particularly since what we've been talking about with Moulton in terms of it being an ideal sort of precursor in the performing arts area is so fitting for Hoover Meredith.
We
So
can add
this-
a second A.
I'm sorry?
We can put a second A.
Damn, yes. Focus areas here will be technology integration, coding, digital design, and media tech. And again, you'll see similar students who are passionate about the real-world technology and content that's surrounding them and interested in careers that are intriguing to them, where there's going to be those career and technology education skill sets and those problem-solving competencies that are going to set them up for success, such as software engineering, graphic design, digital marketing, or IT systems. And so similarly, key learning outcomes include digital content creation, software development, data structures, and interactive media. Projects can include app development, user interface design, or video production. And again, you're seeing here examples of projects and capstone experiences that are anchored in real-life problems of practice or challenges that students can see relevance in and create something that solves actual real-world challenges or simulations that they can get invested in. All of these are going to be the kind of capstone experiences that a student is excited to see through to fruition. And that is a powerful thing when, in the course of a student's academic experience, they're excited about the way that they're going to show mastery in something that may look different than a traditional final exam or a midterm.
So just a couple of next steps. So what that was stage one, right, of signature school development model, and identifying the signature pathways and sort of the data that created that analysis and why we applied the analysis in the manner that we did. Also want to talk a little bit about, just in terms of next steps, thinking it through the lens of the stages of signature model school development, is the notion of as we have identified signature pathways, now is, as we're kind of talking about the design and phase where we are identifying and securing resources, which we just kind of had that conversation, setting up signature school environments and designing the actual implementation. The reason why this is important, particularly if you begin to look at the last bullet there, install core components of the implementation plan, training, student family informational meetings, is because when we think about the number of data points that led us to the identification, I mean, we did that with students, with families, with staff. That relationship actually doesn't end after the identification process. It actually grows and continues in the design and the implementation phases of the signature programs. And so we need to build on that momentum of continuing to reach out and to listen and to garner that understanding and that mutual sort of co-generated design of the actual signature programs in terms of phase 2. When it comes to design, we thought it'd be helpful just to also throw a couple of concept designs in there. I think we may have used some of these in previous Reimagine Education updates, but it's also important to note, just thinking back on the data set, the comprehensive data set, when we look at the investment priorities from all respondents, where all respondents said, this is where we'd like for you to prioritize your investments, they really spoke about modernized, flexible classroom spaces, and they also talked about signature school infrastructure from all respondents. Those were predominant sort of areas of investment that all respondents lifted up for Des Moines Public Schools to invest in. When it comes to students specifically, when we asked them about the priority investments that they see that we should make with them, they lifted up maker spaces and collaborative spaces, modern facilities and activity spaces. Those were some of the dominant themes of priorities that our students and all respondents lifted up for us. Stage 3 is about full implementation. And this is actually when we are off and running and we continue to assess and evaluate the effectiveness of the program and what needs to happen next. And then, of course, stage 4 is sort of the optimization, where we evaluate where we're at and we begin to make any sort of modifications or adjustments to what is actually just been stood up with our families and with our students. This last slide is just about a reminder. This slide we've shown multiple times now in terms of the bond referendum timeline. So it just, again, is referencing that we are actually on track. We're on pace in terms of our timeline. These are just milestones. The only hard and fast dates on this particular timeline are September 19th in terms of the filing of a resolution and the November 4th election date. The rest of these dates are milestones, and we're within each of these.
Thank you, team.
May I ask, is this presentation available on the Reimagining Education website?
It will be tonight.
Tonight?
So,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
So, board colleagues, if it's okay with you, I think it'd be good to just give everybody and the board member the opportunity to either reflect, ask a question, throw out some aha, just to make sure that we get a sense of the board table. So I'm not going to pick on you. Somebody go.
I'll go ahead. Thank you for the continued work, all of you on this. The vision is starting to form up, and it really is exciting. I think my kids are never going to see this in the Des Moines Public Schools, but if they were 10 years younger, this is exactly what I would want to see them moving toward. And so I think it's really, really exciting from that standpoint. I had a thought as we were talking about SEL tonight, as we were talking about some of our goals around what is the kind of student that we want to create. And as I listened, one of the things, as we talked about project-based learning and what curriculum we're going to put in front of, one of the things that I hope that this team reflects on and thinks about as we train our staff is that we also produce graduating classes that when you poll them, have absolutely no idea what the politics of their teachers are. I would like them to walk out of their classroom wondering, for 10 years, I have no idea, because they saw, they were able to articulate all sides of an argument, all viewpoints around questions that, real world questions that we will tackle in the classroom. But I would love to see our students graduate and say, I have no idea what my teachers' politics are. I have no idea what that is, but I learned a lot, and I can articulate almost any viewpoint, and that's the kind of thinker I am, and that's the kind of learner I am. That's what I'd like to see. Just a thought.
Thanks.
Once again, thank you guys. This team, I mean, we put so much on you this first year, and I like to see the progress that we're making. One thing I noticed is that you really captured, or even the review that I can't think,
Analysis.
Oh my God, I just
Survey analysis.
the survey that they did, I could really see how the community, how the different school zones really picked and captured their community in each of those zones. So I really enjoy that. But just the comment, just so thank you very much. Thank you so much again for doing this.
I did have more of probably a technical question for the PowerPoint, maybe before it gets uploaded. I was really excited to see when you went through the STEM academies or the STEAM academies and how you had example projects and capstone experiences. And I got excited when you talked about cybersecurity, escape rooms, and things like that. I would love to better understand what might those example projects and capstone experiences look like for a CTE academy as well.
That's a really great question. I would say that is exactly what is currently happening in CTE. For example, our cybersecurity students are receiving, both local and national awards for engaging in, cyber events. We have our own cyber team, for example, with those things. And that is where, because Des Moines Public Schools has such a strong foundation in a lot of the things that are being presented tonight as part of helping everybody understand what a signature programming is, that we are not starting from scratch. School districts like Kansas City, Kansas, which we're lifting up as a model for programming with our Diploma Plus, school districts had to start from scratch, and we're not doing that. I can also, just think about the fact that, our students are being asked to do things for companies and businesses and industries. Principal just hosted a bunch of our students in Business Incubator that actually went through a performance task of having a analysis of a business plan and return on investment and market value and all of these things. And students competed with other school districts on, how do they do that? And we had some students that did really, really well in that. So I would say that those tenets already exist in CTE, which prepares us even better to be able to take this to scale, which is part of our commitment as a school district to equity. Because those opportunities currently are very limited to just Central Campus. And this is about, again, ensuring that regardless of space and facility, that students have access to those types of opportunities.
Thank you for highlighting it.
Thank you also for all the work that you are doing and will continue to do. Tasha, you mentioned earlier, with all the great things that are going on and the great things that are coming about, how we're getting this to people, right? How we're getting this to be known, because this is what is going to attract, right? More students, more families. And then also, how do we make this information available in a way that's also very understandable for families within our district? So I think just paying attention to how we're getting this out. So many good things. I mean, it's really exciting for me. And like Patrick said, my kids are done, right, with high school, but it makes me want to adopt children because this is really exciting. I wish that my children would have had this opportunity and they didn't. And so just get this out to people. Yeah, thank you.
Can I respond to that just really quickly because it does pertain to some of the points that were brought up tonight. So one of the things that will come down the pike and that we've also seen in the Q&A that is posted on the Reimagining website is like, how do we ensure equity, right? How do we ensure that everybody does understand their choices, right? And that actually is a way and an investment that needs to be made that I think is more of the goal 3 work of ensuring that no matter what language is spoken, no matter where our families reside, they all have access to the exact same amount of information because we need to prepare our students and families to be able to make the choice of what do these new opportunities mean for me and my children, as a parent? And that is something that I really respect and appreciate about you specifically, is because you always bring us back and center on that. And that if we do not do that and we do not invest in the infrastructure of helping all families understand what college and career readiness is and specifically what Des Moines Public Schools has to offer in that, we're only going to get educational equity, to your point, of ensuring that our families have that. And so that is part of, I think, where the goal costing comes into play of being able to support those types of programming things, in addition to the bond, which is more about the facilities and the structures.
Ms. Knox, Ms. Martirano?
Thank you, Chair Norris. I have a few things. One, I'm just want to share my gratitude for how thoughtful this process has been from the start. It has always been rooted in data. It's been rooted in what is research and evidence-based, and this presentation and the most recent data that you received regarding the surveys as well as the student comments, the way that you triangulated that information and brought it to us in such, I think, an impactful way. As I look at that word cloud, I saw pathways for each of those areas. I said to Patrick, like, oh, those are our YouTubers right there, that program right there. The activities that you highlighted, I could see the pathways for the students at the elementary level reaching those goals. So it's very inspiring. And knowing that it's rooted in the data and research and evidence that you've all engaged in gives me confidence in what you're presenting to us. So I appreciate that. I have a couple of questions. They are a little bit more just technical and tactical stuff. So I'll go ahead and submit those in on the website for you. But thank you very much.
Ms. Knox?
No, I think gratitude to you all for all of the work that you've done, and thank you for listening again to the community and bringing that back. I do think that I think that the more, and I know there's so many questions that we're still working to finalize, but I think just kind of the more operational nitty-gritty we can get as we go out to our community and inspire them and engage them, just the better it's going to be for us getting this bond passed and getting the infrastructure that we need to execute on this really big vision. So I know it's hard sort of questions, and obviously things are always changing, but I think those details just allow us to tell the story sometimes a little better. So thank you.
Great. I think my only comment is excitement. You're actualizing the community's vision, and it's not easy. So I think even though I know I'm super healthily impatient, and but I also, just want to make sure as we're having these conversations, we realize, like, to do great and to achieve where we want to go, there's going to be some pain, and that we're all just thinking about that and understanding that. Only consideration, and I think this has been mentioned, this is a lot and heavy, and even just the words and the topics. And so the context, the examples are great. Like when you gave context to something that Skylar asked about. So the more that we can give examples so people can understand it, because even I'm struggling with CTE, STEM, STEAM, STAM, whatever. So anyways, thank you. Yeah. And I think, Dr. Roberts, you're going to wrap us up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Certainly, in just closing us out tonight, I want to highlight three things. And the first is acknowledgement. I want to acknowledge that we, particularly as we think about costing and sort of how we are envisioning sort of our futuristic position, particularly around our fiscal health, that the board, Madam Chair, you all continue to push our thinking and challenge our mental model around how are we going to afford all of this? Because it's unprecedented. We have not gone here before in 118 years. And so I want to acknowledge that the spirited way with which we engage in these discussions at the board dais around our financial ability and financial position is healthy. What is not seen outside of sort of this is the conversations we have behind the scenes when Madam Chair, the Vice Chair and I meet often, right? And it's all with the desired outcome of getting us to a really great place. The second thing that I want to share is a celebration. You know, I've seen in my own research, and many of you have done this as well, in that you're looking to see what is happening around the country as individuals are embarking upon a very similar journey. And what we have not seen that we're experiencing here is where a 7-member board just has this incredible unanimous embrace and support of this bold vision. So if we don't say it enough, thank you. Thank you. There is no doubt in our minds that, and you've said this publicly, and you've cheered us on privately by saying you also see that while this will not impact your children, and we've heard this from other parents, it will not impact their children, but it's going to impact the children of those children. We are talking about a generational impact. And I want to celebrate you, but I also want to acknowledge that I'll be remiss if we do not celebrate our parents and community. Man, parents, I want to look you directly in the eye virtually and say thank you, and our community. You continue to show up day in and day out via the feedback that you offer on the website. When you show up to all of our community convenings, we've been in many of your churches and faith-based other faith-based organizations, and you are championing this on. And so I want to be able to celebrate that as we get ready to go after a significant bond. And then the third thing is, what are we asking? What are we asking for to make this reality? And that is, we've shared with you previously, this is an ambitious undertaking. It's a 10-year plan, and we are going out for a $500 million bond. And certainly at our next convening, our next meeting, Madam Chair and team, we're going to be ready to share what will this mean for our taxpayers and the members of our community, because it comes at a financial cost. But thus far, what we've heard from our parents and community members is that individuals are willing to make a sacrifice, if you may, to ensure that the children of their children are walking into sophisticated buildings and experiencing the kind of world-class educational opportunities that we have not experienced before, right, under your leadership and those leaders who are going to be part of this journey and come after us. And so I want to say thank you. And as a next step, then we're going to come back, Madam Chair, on the June 17th meeting. In addition to the costing that we have proposed, we'll have an offline conversation about what else do we need to talk about in terms of our financial responsibility and projections, and we will be ready to be able to deliver on that. After that, to build on the next steps that Matt shared, looking at our timeline, we want to be able to land on an exact sort of a dollar amount for our general obligation bond, but we're leaving here tonight with excitement, inspiration, and enthusiasm, because the 7 members of this board have raised both hands and said, you're doing the right thing, and you're elevating the community's voices, their wishes and desires. And so thank you. Team, thank you for your presentation tonight. We could not do this without your unwavering commitment, dedication, and support. So thank you all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you. With that, we are adjourned. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now I'm hungry.